Chapter 760. The sky was bright, but the entire jungle seemed to be in a deep slumber. Only the chirping of birds could let people know that a new day had arrived. Zhuang Xiaoyu and Baiming Jia once again fell into a deep slumber after taking the medicine. Even a god's body would need a few days of rest to heal, let alone a broken sternum. They would probably need at least 3 to 5 days to fight again. A faint wisp of green smoke rose. There was no one around and it was quiet. Lin Muyu went back to the tent to rest after teaching Lu Bai some mental cultivation methods. She calmed her mind and her mind was as still as a mirror. The divine power in her energy sea circulated automatically. Lin Muyu didn't need to use the spirit cultivation art anymore, and the art could refine the supreme divine power in her body on its own. About 30 meters away, Shang Qian's tent was very quiet. Inside the tent, Shang Qian was holding a cup of tea and sitting there quietly like a virgin. Qin Hang sat cross-legged beside her with a serious expression. "Uncle Qin, what do you think of that kid?" "Which kid?" Zhuang Xiaoyu. Qin Hang asked with a smile. "How could it be?" Shang Qian shook her head. Although Zhuang Xiaoyu's talent is extraordinary and his strength is astonishing, he is arrogant and prideful. His mental state and cultivation are seriously incompatible with his own cultivation. He is destined to suffer. I'm talking about someone else, someone whose mental state and strength are unfathomable. You're talking about the kid that Miss Si Kongyao favors, right? That's right, that's him. Uncle Qin has seen countless people. What do you think of this person? Qin Hang took a deep breath. Miss, forgive me for being blunt. This person's mental state and cultivation are above Zhuang Xiaoyu's. Above Zhuang Xiaoyu? Shang Qian was a little shocked. Zhuang Xiaoyu is known as the number one among the younger generation in the Tianji Empire. So what if he's the number one? There's always someone better than you out there. Qin Hang said confidently, I saw the whole process of that kid killing the demon venerable. He only used 70% of his strength at most to kill a demon venerable. Moreover, his moves were exquisite and domineering. More importantly, he didn't just rely on his strength. Oh, what do you mean? I don't know if First Miss noticed, but when that kid was fighting with the demon venerable, the timing and angle of his attack happened to be when the demon venerable was at its weakest. It's not that his strength is absolutely above the demon venerable, but his wisdom is far above the demon venerable, and he knows how to attack the demon venerable's weakness. This is also the reason why he could easily kill the demon venerable, and Baiming Jia was seriously injured. Who on earth is he? Shang Qian's beautiful brows knit together lightly as she said, could it be someone from the Heavenju Empire or the Darkstone Empire? In my memory, there's no such person in the Tianji Empire or the Tianji sect. Anything is possible. Qin Hang narrowed his eyes. In short, this is a person that we shouldn't lose if we can rope in. Otherwise, Miss Si Kongyao wouldn't treat him with such respect. Humph, that little girl Yao, Shang Qian pouted. I think she likes that guy or else she wouldn't be so abnormal. Qin Hang couldn't help but laugh. That kid is hidden deep and handsome, of course he can win the hearts of girls. First Miss, don't tell me you don't like him at all? Shang Qian smiled and her eyes were filled with endless arrogance. She said, love between a man and a woman is but a mortal matter. What I want is to control everything, not give up everything for one person. Good. Qin Hang had a look of admiration. This is Shang Sun's daughter, this is the granddaughter of the Saint Martial God, Lord Zhang Cheng. This is the kind of breadth of mind and spirit we need. I think First Miss will not lose to any man in the future, and Lord Zhang Cheng's legacy is destined to be inherited by you. Humph, Uncle Qin, you don't have to flatter me. The corner of Shang Qian's mouth curled up, and her beautiful smile was so captivating. She said, my age is similar to Yao's, but my strength is far inferior to hers. I'm afraid that in terms of martial arts cultivation, I will never be able to catch up to Yao's realm in my lifetime. However, the future isn't decided by one's fists. Yes. Qin Hang had a smile on his face. Just as First Miss said, this continent is going to change soon. The spiritual mountains of the immortal realm are colliding, and the planes are merging. Now, the world is no longer just the celestial pole mainland. There is also the shattered cauldron realm mainland across the sea. His Majesty sent a secret letter half a month ago, and all people above the level of Saint Martial Warrior have to obey orders and join the army of the Shattered Cauldron Realm to serve the country. Shang Qian smiled playfully and said, this is why I said that the future isn't decided by strength alone. We know very little about the Shattered Cauldron Realm. If we use our weapons without authorization, I'm afraid that we won't necessarily get a vast territory, but the people of the Tianji Empire will be plunged into misery and suffering. If His Majesty wants to defeat the Qin Empire of the Shattered Cauldron Realm by himself, I'm afraid it's like a fool's dream. Qin Hang said faintly, His Majesty the Saint Emperor is wise. He has long decided to send only half of the army of the Qinji Empire to the Shattered Cauldron Realm, and the rest of the army will stay at the border to prevent possible sneak attacks from Tianzhu and Heishu. I heard that the Qin Empire has two princes who are skilled in both civil and military affairs. One is Lin Muyu and the other is Feng Jixing. Both of them are appointed ministers to manage the government affairs. Not only are they brave and good at fighting, but they are also resourceful. Shang Qian's eyes flickered and she said, I hope Our Majesty doesn't underestimate his opponents. Otherwise he will definitely suffer under the attack of Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. Yes. Qin Hang nodded and said, if the Tianji Empire really launches an expedition, do you think Lord Zhang Qing will take the lead? I don't know. Grandpa hasn't paid much attention to military affairs recently, and he's old, so he doesn't want to get involved in disputes anymore. I guess if they really launch an expedition, the most likely one to take the lead would still be Marshal Bai Minghuan. He is in the prime of his life, and his military achievements are outstanding. If he can defeat the Qin Empire and unify the Shattered Cauldron Realm, he will be the only famous general in the Tianji Empire for tens of thousands of years. As she spoke, Shang Qian smiled and said, which of these senior generals doesn't covet the empty title of a famous general? Yes, but it's a pity that you're a girl. Otherwise you would at least be a candidate for a general. Humph, there will be a chance. I'll wait for the day when His Majesty summons me. Thousands of miles away, a fierce battle was taking place on the snowy Eight Wasteland. The violent sound of horse hooves shook the entire snowfield. The cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp, dressed in gray and white armor, held up the purple flag and lances, and confronted the last elite troops of the devil race. Dong dong dong, the war drums sounded hurriedly. Nearly 100,000 elite cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp turned over and mounted their horses together. Holding his sword, Wei Chou spurred his horse to gallop in front of the formation. He raised his sword high and shouted, for the female Empress Qin, for the Qin Empire, for the sake of our homeland no longer being trampled by demons, for the prosperity of the earth, and for the peace of the people, we must win this battle. Everyone raised their weapons and let out a roar that shook the heavens. We will win. Victory! Victory! Wei Chou slowly turned his horse around and stood at the forefront of the whole formation. Staring at the formation of the devil race in the distance with his clear eyes, he raised his sword high and shouted, Attack! The formation moved slowly, and soon entered a galloping speed, shaking the heaven and earth. In the devil race's camp, a simple earthen wall was made into an indestructible city by ice and snow. On the wall, the man in a golden robe was the emperor of the devil race, Demon Emperor Feng Yuan. Beside him were two marshals of the devil race. One was Qian Feng and the other was Shen Baichuan. Below the city, countless black cavalrymen were the last trump card of the devil race, the 100,000 elite cavalrymen of the Nanan family, a cavalry regiment composed of high-level demons. It was said that even the armored demon army was no match for them. Can we win? Demon Emperor's eyes were still full of vicissitudes and he said, if we lose this battle, there will be no place for our god race to live on the whole continent. We will lose our home and everything. Your Majesty, please don't worry. Shen Baichuan cupped his fists and said, the 100,000 cavalrymen of the Nanan family are the strongest in the world. They will not lose to the Dragon Courage army. No matter how good Wei Chou is, he can't make up for the gap in military strength and fighting strength. Qian Feng, who was wearing a silver marshal's robe, was silent. He just reached out and brushed off the thick layer of snow on his shoulder. Marshal Qian Feng, what do you think? Feng Yuan asked indifferently. Qian Feng nodded and said, Father, Wei Chou's strategy was inherited from Lin Muyu, and he has always been experienced in military strategy. Moreover, since the battle at the Tongtian Gorge, Wei Chou has always advocated the strategy of advancing step by step, and never taking risks. But now, the Longdan army camp has actually put up a formation to fight against our cavalry. I think, it's not that simple. Marshal Qian Feng is worrying too much, Shen Baichuan smiled coldly. Although the soldiers of the Longdan army camp are battle-hardened, they are still humans after all. Their physique and strength cannot be compared to the Protoss. Moreover, we are using the fine horses of the northern desert, while the Longdan army camp uses mostly mixed war horses. Their leg strength and charging power are far inferior. Moreover, Shen Baichuan's eyes turned cold. Our Winged Men Legion has been closely monitoring from the sky. Wei Chou did not bring a single magic crystal cannon out of the Tongtian Gorge. As long as he does not bring any magic crystal cannon, what is there to fear from the Longdan army camp? I think Marshal Qianfeng has been scared out of his wits by the Longdan army camp. I hope so. Qianfeng did not argue. He said, Father, I have arranged for guards and carriages to escort His Highness Ning-Er and Her Highness Jing-Er out of the 8 wastelands. Once the Protoss are defeated, we will retreat to the north and enter the wildlands to find a new home. Feng Yuan's expression was lonely. He said somewhat impatiently, All right, just arrange it. Amidst the sound of hooves, the 2 strongest cavalry regiments in the Shattered Cauldron realm were less than 100 meters away from each other. Wei Chou suddenly raised a blue flag and shouted, Magic crystal crossbow, fire. The elite soldiers in the front row of the Longdan army camp each took out a crossbow from a black cloth bag on the back of their horses. The crossbow was made of pure steel, but it was very different from ordinary crossbow bolts. The arrow they used was actually an arrow with a light blue luster. It was a crossbow bolt that was filled with magic crystals. There was also a small crystal detonator tied to the center of the arrow. Swoosh, 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 the magic crystal crossbow bolts flew with the wind. In the blink of an eye, there were continuous explosions. The power of the magic crystal crossbow bolts could only reach 3 to 5 meters away. However, when scattered, the power produced by the explosion of thousands of magic crystal crossbow bolts was destructive. Small mushroom clouds soared into the sky. The 100,000 devil cavalry were defeated even before the battle began. Chapter 761. In less than 2 hours, the mountain-like formation of 100,000 cavalrymen began to crumble. The sounds of explosions from the small magic crystal crossbows rang out one after another. The shockwaves from the explosions caused the air currents to become chaotic. Strong gales blew across the snowy plains. Looking down, the ground had become a mess in the blink of an eye. Charred craters could be seen all over the battlefield. Ha! On the city wall, Qianfeng suddenly laughed. He looked up at the sky and his eyes were filled with endless sorrow and anger. Everyone thought that the key person in this war was Qin Wanglin Muyu or Duke Wei Chou. However, it was not the case. The real key person was the mysterious Qin Xiling who was hiding behind the human army. The small magic crystal crossbows had crushed the last hope of the demon race's counterattack. How could this be? How could this be? The confidence and calmness on Shen Baichuan's face had long been swept away. He knelt on the ground with a blank face. What kind of weapon is that? Why is it so powerful? Send out the giant flying snakes. Qianfeng gently waved his arm and said, Send out 5 giant flying snakes to resist the attack of the Longdan army camp. Order the cavalrymen to retreat. We can't let the last army of the god race be buried in the 8 wastelands. If we do so, we will be the last sinners of the god race. Father, what do you think? Demon Emperor Feng Yuan's face was calm as if he had already guessed that this would be the result. In fact, it was indeed so. Wei Chou had always been calm when it came to using the magic crystal crossbows. He would not take the initiative to attack without full confidence. This time, Wei Chou used the magic crystal crossbows to draw a tragic end to this war. The appearance of the magic crystal crossbows was simply a fatal blow to the demon race. Woo-woo, the horn sounded. The Zhongnan cavalrymen who were fighting on the battlefield turned around and retreated one after another. At the same time, the roar of giant beasts came from the sky. 5 giant flying snakes appeared in the sky with their huge bodies trembling. This was not the first time they saw these giant beasts. Wei Chou raised his eyebrows as he looked at the sky and said, In this battle, we must do our best to kill off the last of the demon race's forces. Aim the magic crystal crossbows at the sky. Everyone spread out and attacked the giant flying snakes. General Sin, you and Ouyang Yen will lead the main force to attack from the right flank and seize the southern ancient city. All right. The horses' hooves were echoing. The bugle horn was sounding. The flying snake was howling. The flames were burning. The snowfield was melting. No one would have thought that the last battle between the human race and the demon race would have such a great disparity in strength. In this battle, the demon race had been completely defeated under the command of Shen Baichuan. From now on, it would be difficult for the demon race to compete with the Qin Empire. Even the last capital for a comeback was almost gone. As long as the cavalry of Situ Sen caught up with them, the tens of thousands of Zhongnan cavalrymen would be annihilated. There was a cloud of smoke in the sky, which dyed the whole sky red. Under the sky, several giant flying snakes were roaring and wreaking havoc. The huge force field in their bodies was crazily absorbing everything on the ground, grinding the snow and the soldiers into minced meat. At the same time, the Longdan army camp's magic crystal crossbows were also shooting intensively. The white diamond arrowheads pierced into the scales of the flying snakes, and the magic crystal in the middle began to explode. For a time, the bodies of the flying snakes trembled violently. Although they had strong vitality, they could not withstand such continuous attacks. Soon after, the giant flying snakes were already wounded and tottering. It was only a matter of time before they died. When the 5 giant flying snakes fell to the ground with flames all over their bodies, the elite cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp rushed to the southern ancient city like a whirlwind. This Zhongnan city was already the last land of the demon race on the mainland. Kill? The earth-shaking roar reverberated on the snowfield. The outcome had been decided. The winner was the king and the loser was the thief. Just a small demonic crystal had actually reversed the fate of both the human race and the demon race. The withdrawal of the demon race also helped the Great Qin Empire to complete its hegemony in the Shattered Cauldron realm once again. However, the Empire Master was nowhere to be found. Everyone was waiting for her return, but no one knew if she was still there. The light of the setting sun penetrated through the dense leaves of the jungle, casting mottled shadows on the bodies of ugly demon beasts. This was a kind of wolf tribe with sharp teeth exposed outside their lips. Moreover, there was more than one such demon beast in the jungle. Just this kind of wolf alone, there were more than 100 of them. Not far away in the thorny bushes, there was a kind of humanoid monster, covered with rotten flesh. It looked like a big rotten toad, but its head was in the shape of a bloated man. There were dozens of them. Further away, giants with stone awls in their hands opened their eyes wide and looked around. They often touched the back of their heads with their rough palms, looking charmingly naive. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Amidst the sound of horse hooves, a man wearing black armor and a blood-red battle robe appeared. His entire head was covered by his helmet, revealing only a pair of dark eyes. The battle horse he was riding on was actually a battle horse that had already begun to rot. It breathed out a rancid smell and seemed to be a little impatient. After a long neigh, it stomped its front hooves. Don't worry. The master stroked the mane of the war horse and said, "The prey is very close. Don't worry, we will share this fat prey, haha." In the sound of footsteps, a leader carrying a long sword walked over, knelt respectfully in front of the war horse and said, "Your Majesty, 30 miles ahead is the territory of the Shura of the Dark Moon. She killed the King Eric. According to the rules of the Land of Exile, she should be called the King of the Dark Moon now. We have brought all the troops in the territory, a total of more than 700 troops. Her days of being the king are over. She is not in the Black Mountain." There was a hint of sharpness in the eyes of the master, and he said, "She is already here. Order everyone to be on guard. The King of the Dark Moon may launch a sneak attack on us at any time." What? The leader was startled. "Your Majesty, you mean she is only one person? Does she dare to take the initiative to challenge our army?" "It seems to be the case now. She is here and she is very close to us." "Yes, I understand." He looked into the distance, his face full of fighting spirit and a smile. The King of 100 Battles. No one knew what his real name was, but everyone in the Land of Exile had heard of the King of 100 Battles. This king had existed in the Land of Exile for nearly 100,000 years. He had won every battle and had never been defeated. No king had ever been able to gain an advantage against him. As a result, although the other kings were not inferior to the King of 100 Battles in terms of strength, no one dared to challenge his ever-victorious position. Further ahead was a barren grassland. The grass that was half a person's height seemed to provide the best cover for the battlefield. This army, which did not belong to humans, stepped into the grassland and went straight into the distance. The wolf beasts were at the forefront. They scuttled into the grass, causing the grass to rustle, just like the ripples caused by fish swimming on the surface of the water. Oh. Suddenly, one of the ripples became violent and collapsed to the ground along with a clump of wild grass. The people in the distance could not see clearly, they could only hear the wolf beast's blood-curdling screams and a spray of fresh blood. Night had already fallen. That cold light flashed and disappeared. Everyone knew that the wolf beast had been finished off by someone. Then came the second, the third, and more wolf beasts disappeared from sight. When the group of leaders under the King of 100 Battles arrived, they only saw the corpses of the wolf beasts lying in the messy grassland. They were all killed with a single blow. Their throats were slit, and their throats were pierced by a sword. Who is she? The spear in the leader's hand was trembling. She is the King of Dark Moon. The King of 100 Battles raised his head and looked into the distance. That overbearing aura disappeared in a flash. She was a person who was good at hiding her aura, and also a strong opponent. Pulling the reins, he spurred the horse and said calmly, "Everyone spread out. You must find her for me. Let her have a taste of the soft tongue of a toad." Yes. Everyone spread out, but they were not in a mess. There were 10 people in a group, and each group was equipped with a toad beast, 5 humans, 1 giant, and 3 wolf beasts. The combat team under the King of 100 Battles was completely different from the other kings. It was also because of this combat quality that his power grew in the banished land, so the other kings did not dare to challenge his position. "Be careful." A leader held a spear in his hand and looked at every movement in the grass with a sharp look. "Ow!" The wolf beast bared its teeth and walked through the grass with a ferocious look. Suddenly, with a ow-ow sound, the smell of blood filled the air. A wolf beast in front had been killed. Swoosh! In the bushes, a graceful figure swept past. "Bastard, chase after her." The leader roared angrily. The giant waved his stone awl and roared as he ran on the ground, but his speed was definitely not as fast as the other 2 wolf beasts. However, when the wolf beast was chasing after the giant, a sword light suddenly swept past and blood splattered. There were no more wolf beasts in this team. "She is there, Toad, do it." The Toad man suddenly opened his mouth at a horrifying angle, and a soft tongue flew out. "Pa!" It wrapped around the left leg of the girl who was running in the grass. "Pull back." The soft tongue quickly retracted. The girl raised her long sword and the blade was shining brightly. Cha! The soft tongue was cut in half. The leader was so shocked that his face turned pale. "Cut off the soft tongue with one sword, how is this possible? This soft tongue is something that even an armored car can't crush. Giant, kill her for me." Roar! The giant raised his stone all high and smashed down. Pung! The soil splashed, but there was no figure. All that could be seen was a golden crystal light rising from the sky, directly hitting the giant's lower jaw. The next moment, his huge head directly exploded, and blood splattered all over the ground. "Bastard!" The leader's body trembled. At this moment, he felt an inexplicable fear, as if he had a premonition that his life had come to an end. Sha sha sha! The grass was covered in blood, and a young girl holding a blood-stained long sword slowly walked over. She wore a slightly short cloak on her upper body, and a coffee-colored, tight-fitting skirt on her lower body, which made her exquisite and curvaceous body look particularly alluring. This attire could not have been more simple in the banished lands, but at this moment, it was exceptionally enchanting and enchanting. The leader looked up at the girl's blood-red eyes, and his heart instantly turned cold. At this moment he seemed to see death. Chapter 762. His throat was suddenly cut open, so much so that the leader did not even have the time to shout a warning. Within half a second, the blood gushed out and splashed on the barren grassland. He had lived in the land of exile for decades and fought his way to the position of a leader with his extraordinary cultivation. He did not expect that he would end up so easily. He did not even have the time to attack before he died under the sword of his opponent. The King of Dark Moon's strength had far exceeded the cognitive range of the leaders of the land of exile. Although the light from the celestial dragon crystal was fleeting, it still did not escape the eyes of the King of 100 Battles. He could clearly feel that the fleeting power was coming from that direction. "Don't go, Dark Moon." He turned around and disappeared from the back of the horse. The next moment he appeared in the sky above the grassland in the distance. He unsheathed his sword and slashed it down, aiming at a beautiful figure on the grassland. The light flashed. She had broken the void and escaped. Damn it! The King of 100 Battles was shocked. He quickly focused his mind to see where she was. The ground was covered with the corpses of his subordinates. He could not let this woman escape. However, a few seconds later, the King of 100 Battles realized that he was wrong. The screams of the demon beasts and leaders came from afar again. The light from the sword shredded flesh and blood. Even the powerful toad and giant could not survive a second under the sword of the King of Dark Moon. Swoosh, swoosh, the King of 100 Battles flew at the speed of a meteor. When he arrived, he saw that the ground was covered with corpses. The giant's heart was smashed, the toad was cut in half, and the bodies of the hikers and leaders were nowhere to be seen. All that was left was a puff of blood mist, as if their bodies had evaporated into thin air. "What the hell is she?" The King of 100 Battles roared. He actually regretted bringing so many subordinates here. He was afraid that it was a mistake to bring so many subordinates here. These leaders and hikers were no match for the King of Dark Moon. They were not even qualified to be cannon fodder. Everyone get out of this forest. The King of 100 Battles roared. His voice traveled far. Several leaders immediately gathered and asked respectfully, King of 100 Battles, if we leave, what about you? If she can kill me, then she'll be a true king. The face of the King of 100 Battles was devoid of any color, and not even the slightest emotion could be seen. He had stayed in the banished land for too long, so much so that he had tasted the supremacy of thousands of people. He was tired of this endless life of killing, but the King of Dark Moon in front of him seemed to be opening a new window for him. Yes, Your Majesty. The group of subordinates did not disobey and quickly retreated from the grassy forest. The moon was as red as blood, and the moonlight seemed to cover the earth with a layer of blood. The King of 100 Battles held his sword and stood a few meters above the ground. He calmly said, Now there are only the two of us left. Come, let me see what you really look like, Dark Moon King. Rustle? In the grass, a pair of boots that belonged to a soldier stepped on the blood-stained grass. Above the boots was a pair of slender snow-white legs. Above the seductive absolute territory was a coffee-colored short skirt that wrapped around her beautiful buttocks. A simple white shirt with a rope on her chest was messy and chic. Her cloak was a little tattered, but it did not affect her wild and seductive beauty. You're the Dark Moon? 100 Battles murmured. They call me that, but I don't know who I am. Then I guess I'm the Dark Moon. Her voice was very pleasant, so pleasant that it did not sound like a murderous king. You know I'm coming for you? I know. Her expression was calm, and the long sword in her hand was dripping with blood. She said, I can feel that strong murderous aura, but you can't kill me. You're only slightly stronger than Eric, and I'm not who I was 10 days ago. Is that so? Looking at her skirt and cloak, 100 Battles couldn't help but laugh. I believe what you said. It seems that idiot Eric did die in your hands, but today's ending will be different. The person who will die here today will be you. Is that so? Then let's try. Her voice was too calm, so calm that it did not seem like she was facing a formidable enemy, but like she was watching a story that she already knew the ending. Do it. The corner of 100 Battles' mouth raised. It was full of confidence. Swoosh. The wind rose, and 100 Battles' speed was so fast that it was like teleportation. The blade wrapped in the wind rule and divine power directly blasted toward the girl's neck. The two were 10 meters apart, but the attack was completed in 0.1 seconds. For tens of thousands of years, countless opponents had died under this attack, and there was no lack of Lord-level powerhouses. 100 Battles' style was very simple. It could only be described in one word: fast. However, it seemed that the opponent was not slow. Just as 100 Battles' blade slashed toward the opponent's neck, the long sword glowing with starlight was raised almost at the same time. Ding! Sparks shot everywhere. At the moment when the sparks were dazzling, the force on 100 Battles' blade instantly disappeared. The girl also disappeared at the same time. The next second, a piercingly cold flame of light attacked from behind. Bang! The cyclone flowed back on the ground, and 100 Battles' figure disappeared in a flash. The long sword struck down from the sky with a gust of wind. Its speed was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. The girl's figure was not inferior at all. She floated backward and swept her sword, waiting for 100 Battles to fall into the trap. At the same time, the ground trembled and a golden light bloomed in the air. It was a huge dragon crystal. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The surrounding weeds were trembling. That was the effect of the force field. At this moment, 100 Battles was actually unable to move. His body was controlled in place by the force field derived from the opponent's divine power. You've been fooled? The corner of the girl's mouth raised, revealing a peerlessly beautiful smile. In your dreams. 100 Battles looked up at the falling dragon crystal in the air. Suddenly he waved his long sword and slashed left and right 4 times. Suddenly the wall of the bit wall seemed to have been slashed through. The endless power of the wind element surged and rushed straight toward the dragon crystal. Boom! The golden light shattered, and at the same time, a faint pain suddenly came from 100 Battles' waist. It was the Dark Moon King's sword. A simple sword actually pierced through the god's wall that 100 Battles' body had condensed on its own. Although the wound was not deep, it was equivalent to a formal declaration of war against 100 Battles, telling him that the Dark Moon had the ability to kill him. When experts exchanged blows, it was only a matter of seconds. In just a few seconds, the two of them had already exchanged blows several times. The result was that a wound appeared on Baijan's waist, while the Dark Moon Azura remained calm and unharmed. The difference in strength could be seen at a glance. The King of 100 Battles was well versed in the wind element divine power. After many years of training, he had already developed his speed to the extreme. The speed of his close-range attack was comparable to the speed of breaking through the void. However, no matter how fast he was, the Dark Moon King in front of him seemed to be able to see through his thoughts and always responded one step ahead of him. Moreover, her power was very pure, and the burning light was simply unbearable. But the King of 100 Battles was unwilling to give up. Fight again. Whirlwinds rose in the wilderness, and the King of 100 Battles was in the center of hundreds of whirlwinds. He looked at his opponent with a hint of a smile in his eyes. He really wanted to know if the Dark Moon King, who had only been in the Banished Land for less than a year, could withstand this move. Wild Wind Kill is not a secret technique that ordinary people can withstand. 100 Battles kindly reminded her, "You have to be careful." The girl smiled and gently opened her palm. Suddenly, rays of light element divine power surged, and the surrounding sky and earth instantly changed color. That was the ability to summon wind and rain. Thunder fell and collided with the crazy storm of the King of 100 Battles. The earth trembled and the entire wilderness seemed to be torn apart. Golden light bloomed. This time she took the initiative to attack. Clang, clang, clang. In an instant she slashed out 3 times, but all of them were blocked by the Battlemaster King. However, when the girl turned around, the dozens of dragon crystals that had already condensed behind her bombarded the Battlemaster King like cannonballs. This was the attack that the Battlemaster King might not be able to block. His arm went numb and Baijan's face turned ashen. He knew that his opponent was strong, but he did not expect her to be this strong. Based on her current cultivation, she would probably be able to do as she pleased in the Banished Lands. Boom, boom, boom. The celestial dragon crystals collided with the wind wall and light shot up into the sky. In the distance, the subordinates of the King of 100 Battles were stunned. They could not see the real battle, but the surging wind and the changing color of the sky and earth were real. This was a battle between kings, a battle between the dominators of heaven and earth. Before the golden smoke dissipated, the palm of the King of 100 Battles, which was holding the sword, had already split open. Blood was flowing down the blade of the sword. However, the sword was burned red by the opponent's light elemental power. The blood that flowed to the blade of the sword was evaporated, and the remaining blood traces turned into ashes and disappeared. Swoosh! A beautiful figure attacked like lightning, and the sword swept across. Clang! The King of 100 Battles finally lost his grip on the sword, and it flew out of his hand. The sword was wide open and he had completely lost his defense. The girl leaped up and used her snow-white leg to launch a knee strike at the King of 100 Battles at an incredible speed. Suddenly, a cracking sound came from the King of 100 Battles' chin, as if it had been dislocated. His body was also sent flying by the impact of the girl. Ah ah ah! The King of 100 Battles howled in agony as his blood splattered across the sky. He was at a complete disadvantage in this close combat. At this moment, his breathing was chaotic, but his opponent seemed to be completely fine. The King of 100 Battles' mind went blank. Who was this woman? Such a strong person would be a rare talent in any plane. Why would that plane expel such a talent to the desolate and uninhabited Banished Land? Don't kill me, don't kill me. The King of 100 Battles, who was falling, shouted. Bang! The moment he landed, the girl came to him and stepped on his chest. Her blood-red eyes were emotionless and she said, "I can spare your life, but you have to promise me one thing." "Tell me, what is it?" "Surrender to me." The King of 100 Battles was confused. A king surrendering to another king was something that had never happened in the land of exile. Chapter 763. Alright, I promise you. The King of 100 Battles only thought for less than 3 seconds before deciding that survival was the most important thing. Although he was tired of killing in the Banished Land, living was better than dying. When he thought of the pain and torture suffered by the ghosts in the Ghost Realm, he felt that death was the scariest thing in the 3 realms. Compared to that, life in the Banished Land was like the life of a deity. The girl slowly removed her boots and looked at the King of 100 Battles indifferently. "What's your name?" My name is Yunmu, a name from a long time ago." "Alright, I'll call you Yunmu from now on." The girl looked into the distance. "Are those your subordinates?" "Yes, my king, the Dark Moon." 100 Battles felt terrible. He didn't know how to address the girl who looked less than 20 years old. After thinking for a while, he said, "Can I call you, the Queen of the Dark Moon?" "Up to you." The girl didn't even think about it. 100 Battles was resentful, but he was secretly delighted. If he called her the Queen of the Dark Moon, then he could still be the King of 100 Battles. Otherwise, he was afraid that he could only be demoted to the Lord of 100 Battles. That was something he was extremely unwilling to do. Queen of the Dark Moon, do you need me to summon all my subordinates? 100 Battles asked. The girl was puzzled, as if she didn't understand the meaning of this sentence. After a few seconds she said, "Up to you." Yes. The King of 100 Battles roared into the distance, "Boys, come here. You have a new master." In the distance a group of people rushed over. One by one they knelt before the girl under the King of 100 Battles signal, but their faces were blank. The King of 100 Battles coughed, "From now on she is our Queen of the Dark Moon. All of us must obey her. Do you understand?" Yes. Everyone nodded. But one of the leaders whispered, "My king, what happened?" "Nothing." The King of 100 Battles gritted his teeth and said, "I've lost to her, so I've decided to submit to her. Anyways, from today onwards she will be our Queen of the Night. You have a choice, one is to follow me and pledge loyalty to the Queen, the other is to die." Everyone shouted in unison, "We will never choose death." "Sure." The King of 100 Battles nodded. There was a hint of loneliness on his face. He touched his nose and said, "Now let's listen to the Dark Moon Queen's lecture." "Queen, please." The young lady didn't understand what he meant. She saw a large group of people kneeling in front of her. These people were the wanderers and leaders of the exiled lands. They were all people who killed people like scything flax. This made her feel annoyed. She hated this group of people from the bottom of her heart. She frowned and said, "Yunmu, how many sovereigns are there in the exiled lands?" "My queen, apart from you and me, there are 11 more." "Who is the strongest?" "This?" Baijan frowned and said, "Originally I was the strongest, but now, it's you, my queen, who is the strongest." "Except for me." "Then that means that the sovereign King Inferno is the strongest." "All right." The girl wiped off the blood-stained blade. Her expression was so natural and matter-of-fact as she casually said, "Pack up. Prepare to attack the Flame Sovereign King's territory." "Yes." Baijan cupped his fists and said, "Queen, what are we going to do now?" "Unify the exiled lands." The girl's starry eyes flickered and she said indifferently, "I will never be bullied." "Yes." On the contrary, the group of subordinates all seemed very excited. If the Queen of the Dark Moon really wanted to unify the exiled lands, then they would definitely follow her and rise to the heavens. Thus, under the blood moon, the group of people rushed like wolves and rushed in the direction of the Flame Sovereign King. Baijan brought over a fine horse and offered it to its new master. The girl flipped onto the horse. She actually had a very familiar feeling towards creatures like warhorses, as if she had been familiar with these creatures for a long time. She gently stroked the hair on the warhorse's head, but her heart trembled slightly. She turned around and looked at the distant horizon. It seemed like something had appeared there, but it disappeared in a flash as if it didn't want to be discovered by her. She frowned and didn't say anything. She urged the horse to slowly move forward with the group. High up in the clouds, an invisible light screen hid their auras and figures. Behind the light screen, 2 people stood in the air. They both wore very exquisite armor and had white wings on their backs. One of them was a beautiful woman with long flowing hair, and the other was a middle-aged man with great strength. Both of them did not look like Asians. Did her light maxim divine power see through the rule spirit bead? The man smiled faintly and said, "Lady Shiyen, it seems that your perception is becoming more and more unreliable. This woman's light divine power isn't too strong. Any 4-winged angel in the Western Heaven realm can kill her in 10 moves, right?" This beauty was Shiyen, one of the 2 6-winged angels in the Western Heaven realm. After listening to the male angel's words, she couldn't help but smile faintly. "Merlin, in terms of insight into the light maxim, you're just an apprentice in front of me. How dare you speak to me in such a lecturing tone? Aren't you afraid of being punished by me?" Merlin was stunned and hurriedly said respectfully, "Lady Shiyen, please don't blame me. I made a slip of the tongue." "Forget it." Shiyen waved her hand and said, "We've been ordered to come here, not to bicker. I don't have the time for that. The Celestial Pole Continent and the Shattered Cauldron Realm are already hard to deal with. This time, the ruler ordered me to personally make a trip to the Banished Land to see if this girl is really the Heaven's chosen one. If she can really see through the light rule spirit bead, then she's a once-in-a-lifetime genius. The ruler's intention is, the chosen one trial is about to begin. If it's confirmed that she's a talent, then we'll bring her back to the God realm and let her participate in the chosen one trial. This way we can also unearth new talents for the Western Heaven realm. Humph, the Chosen One trial? I think it's better to forget about it. Merlin said with some disdain, the talents that emerge from the Chosen One trial can directly be promoted to a four-winged angel, or at least a two-winged angel. This girl is just a barbarian from the banished land. Besides, in addition to light type, there's also a very violent Shura aura in her power. Bringing a girl with such a demonic nature back to the Heaven Realm to participate in the Chosen One trial will make our Western Heaven Realm lose face. After all, the students who participate in the Chosen One trial are basically sent by the major clans. No, you're wrong. Shi Yin smiled faintly. Bringing her to participate in the Chosen One trial is the ruler's intention. We can't go against the ruler's will. It's decided then. You and I will stay here for 3 months. If she can defeat all the lords in the banished land within 3 months, it means that she's indeed the Heaven's Chosen One and can participate in the Chosen One trial. Yes, I understand. Merlin licked his lips and said, East Heaven is expanding day by day. Perhaps even the ruler feels a little uneasy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent us to this godforsaken banished land to select some rookies. Shi Yin was slightly displeased. She frowned slightly and said, Merlin, you're one of the radiant angels of the Western Heaven Realm. Watch your words. You're a god, and a god who receives the power of faith won't swear. Is that so? Merlin laughed and crossed his arms in front of his chest. There are quite a few gods who swear. The most famous one is none other than the 7 luminaries demon emperor of East Heaven. Do you remember the last time we took advantage of the chaos of war to seize the 7 spirit mountains of the Eastern Heaven Realm? He pointed at the ruler's nose and scolded him for an hour without repeating himself. The ruler's expression at that time was as ugly as it could be. Really, ha! Shi Yin could not help but laugh. After a few seconds, she restrained her smile and said sternly, Merlin, as a seraph, I warn you to maintain respect and awe for the ruler. Otherwise you'll be punished. Yes. Merlin also restrained his smile and said, I'll remember. By the way, she seemed to have sensed our presence just now, Shi Yin said. It can't be. Merlin was stunned. Lady Shi Yan's light wall can block everything, cutting off auras and all spiritual powers. It's impossible for her, a mere lord of the banished land, to sense our aura. Not necessarily. I hope so. Shi Yin sighed and said, I always feel that she will bring new changes to the Western Heaven Realm. As for whether this change is good or bad, I really have no way of seeing through it. It's as if my prophetic ability has completely disappeared. Prophecy is just a kind of compatibility ability. Real history is full of variables. It's not surprising that you can't see through it. Forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. How's the war between the Celestial Pole Continent and the Shattered Cauldron Realm? Humph, those idiots in the lower realm are gathering their armies to attack. By the way, Lin Muyu disappeared from the Shattered Cauldron Realm. Her aura seemed to appear in the Celestial Pole Continent for a while, but after that, we were completely unable to see through everything in the Celestial Pole Continent. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the energy barrier opened by the 7 luminaries demon emperor that blocked our vision. It's the 7 luminaries demon emperor again. Shi Yin was slightly angry and said, Damn it, it's always him. Yes, if it wasn't for the sudden appearance of the 7 luminaries demon emperor, I'm afraid that the Western Heaven Realm's unification of the 4 major galaxies is just around the corner. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the Forest of No Return, Lin Muyu, Si Kongyao, Shang Qian and the others had already stayed for 4 days. Zhuang Xiaoyu and Bai Mingjie's injuries were almost healed. Although their strength was definitely affected because of their injuries, it would no longer affect their journey. In the early morning they brought all their luggage and began a new journey. According to the rules of the competition, Zhuang Xiaoyu was currently far ahead with a Demon King level Demon Spirit Stone. However, his bones were still in the process of healing, so he most likely couldn't make a move. Bai Mingjie's recovery speed was even slower. If they encountered a demon spirit again, only Lin Muyu could make a move. Therefore he was the one with the most advantage. Chapter 764. In the afternoon, the lazy sunlight shone on the forest. In front of them was an unexplored mountain path, so everyone could only lead their horses and cut their way through the thorns. Lin Muyu walked at the front, waving her ice origin sword and chopping the thorns into pieces. Every strike only used a small amount of the law of wind to crush the thorns, as if she didn't want to waste any more energy. Zhuang Xiaoyu led his horse along and couldn't help but laugh. Young hero, how long are you going to take to open a path like this? You're someone who can kill a demonic sovereign by yourself, but the strength of your sword strike can't even compare to a primary sacred warrior. Aren't you saving too much energy? Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Using the least amount of energy to do the most. What's wrong with that? A smile of admiration appeared on Shang Qian's face as she said, young hero is right. We can encounter danger everywhere in the forest of no return. I think it's right for us to travel slowly and maintain our strength at all times. Only then will we be able to deal with any danger that comes our way. Yes, Miss Shang Qian is right. Zhuang Xiaoyu nodded. Since even Shang Qian had said so, there was nothing to refute. After all, he was a man who had walked through countless flowers and had seen all kinds of women. He naturally knew how to speak in front of women. A man who always refuted a woman's views and bragged would not be able to pick up a woman. Jie. At this moment, the sharp cry of a falcon came from the sky. From afar, it looked like a small black shadow was circling in the sky. It's a wolf falcon. Lin Muyu frowned. Are we being followed by a dragon rider again? No, that's not a wolf falcon. Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned. A wolf falcon can't fly that high, and its voice is much sharper than a wolf falcon's. It should be a wild falcon. Young hero, there's no need to be suspicious. There are hundreds of beasts in the forest of no return, and birds of prey are no exception. It's very common for one or two falcons to appear in the sky. If it's a wolf falcon, it would fly even lower in order to follow it. Zhuang Xiaoyu was from the Tianji Empire and the son of the Prime Minister. He knew more about dragon riders and wolf falcons than Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu naturally couldn't refute him. She nodded and said, anyways, we just have to be careful. I'll lead the way. Brother Xiaoyu, bring up the rear. The young prince and Miss Xikong will be in charge of guarding against the enemies around us. Although he was just a small ranger in the eyes of the others, his words were heavy and powerful. It actually made Zhuang Xiaoyu, Xikong Baiming Jie, and the others feel that they had no choice but to obey him. A trace of surprise flashed through Shang Qian's beautiful eyes. He saw another valuable quality in Lin Muyu, leadership. That's right, this person couldn't be simple. An ordinary ranger wouldn't have such a weather-beaten and capable temperament. Qin Hang, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. He looked up at the sky and said, the mountain roads are difficult to travel. We don't have to go too far. Let's find a water source and set up camp near dusk. Nighttime is when demonic spirits are most active. I have a bad feeling that we've walked into a trap set up by a demonic spirit. Trap? Si Kongyao's mouth was wide open. Uncle Qin Hang, what do you mean by that? Qin Hang respectfully said, reporting to Miss Xikong. Demonic spirits understand human nature and also know how to scheme. 2 days ago we killed a demon king and 2 demon sovereigns. However, we haven't received any attacks from the demonic spirits. This can only mean one thing. The demonic spirits are gathering their strength. They plan to use their numbers to crush and kill us all at once. Si Kongyao's beautiful eyes widened. That's impossible. Demonic spirits have always been alone. How could they move in a group? There's no such record in the Empire's demon spirit book. Ha ha ha. Qin Hang couldn't help but laugh and said, the demon spirit book is an ancient book from 300 years ago. It was written by several sacred martial king-level experts. How profound can it be? According to what I know, it's not like thousands of demonic spirits have never appeared before. However, there must be a core figure for them to move in a group. Core figure? Shang Qian was stunned. What's that? Demonic Emperor. Qin Hang's voice was very deep as he said, the demonic emperor is the ruler of the entire demonic spirit world. Only the demonic emperor has the ability to summon so many demonic spirits to attack together. 2,000 years ago, the Blackstone Empire invaded our territory. 270,000 troops passed through the forest of no return and encountered a demonic spirit army commanded by a demonic emperor. The 270,000 troops were so frightened that they stopped advancing and could only retreat in the end. You can imagine how powerful the demonic emperor is. Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned his brows. Uncle Qin, don't be an alarmist. This junior killed a demon king a few days ago. This demonic spirit is only a stubborn branch of the continent. If the 5 major forces were to join forces, they would be able to kill all the demonic spirits in the continent within 10 years. How powerful would the demonic emperor be then? Really? Qin Hang smiled faintly and said, I think young Master Zhuang might be wrong. A mere demon king is nothing. Furthermore, the demon king you killed had a dull color on its neck. Obviously, it was a demon sovereign that had just advanced to the demon king realm. His strength was even weaker. It is said that a demon the arch can easily kill 5 demon kings working together. Don't you know? 5 demon kings? Zhuang Xiaoyu's voice was slightly trembling. Forget it. Qin Hang flicked his sleeves and said, "The demonic emperor is only a legend. No one has seen it before. There have been no legends of the demonic emperor in the continent for close to 100 years. We probably won't meet one either." "But those auras are not fake," Lin Muyu suddenly said. Everyone looked at him. Shang Qian asked, "Young hero, what auras?" "They are following our auras. They are not far nor near. Approximately 10 miles away. They just don't enter our field of vision. We are being followed." "And yes, how is that possible?" Zhuang Xiaoyu was stunned. How did young hero know of auras that are 10 miles away? The kingdom's sacred martial supreme experts can only sense auras that are 5 miles away. "In any case there are. If you don't believe me, ask Qin Hang." Qin Hang was silent for a few seconds before nodding and saying, "He is right. There are indeed many auras following us. There are at least 20 or more demonic spirits. Their strength, the weakest one is a 4th-class demonic spirit." "Oh my god," Si Kongyao was shocked. "Then we are finished? Why don't we leave Lu Bai and Shi Tianming and fly away from the forest of no return? We can still save our lives that way," Shi Tianming wailed. "Don't, young miss, save me," Qin Hang smiled. "Forget it. Young miss, you are thinking too simply. There are many demonic spirits that are good at flying and capturing auras. In terms of sensitivity to auras, the demonic spirit's perception is stronger than ours. It is almost impossible for us to fly away. Moreover," he emphasized his tone and said, "don't pin your hopes on the support of sacred martial god-level experts. Even with the strength of a sacred martial god, they can shatter the void and teleport no more than 50 miles in the same plane. We are 500 to 600 miles away from Tianji City. Even if sect leader Si Kongming and Commander Zhang Qing know of our danger, they won't be able to come for a while. We can only rely on ourselves." "Yes, rely on ourselves." Despite being in a desperate situation, Zhuang Xiaoyu's state of mind calmed down and his face regained its confidence. This was the attitude that an expert should have, unlike Lu Bai and Shi Tianming who were already pale with fright. As for Si Kongyao, her fear seemed to be a contrast to the atmosphere around them. In fact, this guy didn't seem to be worried about anything. He was just looking forward to seeing a more lively scene. Shang Qian's pair of beautiful eyes swept across everyone and found that the most calm and composed were Qin Hang and Lin Muyu. This also vaguely proved that these two people had the highest cultivation among the group. This made Shang Qian look at Lin Muyu even more. Just as Qin Hang said, this guy hid his strength deeply and no one knew how strong he was. "Young hero, will we be alright?" Lu Bai led his horse and followed closely behind Lin Muyu. He asked cautiously. "Don't worry, we will be fine." "Oh, that's good. At most, we will be eaten by the demon spirit. That way we will be free from the troubles of the world. Don't you think so, Lini?" "Young hero, are you joking?" Lu Bai's face was ashen. "I don't want to die. I'm still a virgin." Lin Muyu waved her sword and cut down a clump of thorns. She casually said, "Who isn't? I don't want to die either. Then I will live well." Si Kongyao and Shang Qian opened their mouths at the same time, as if they had understood something. As for Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming and Bai Mingjia, they all grinned. Everyone had a tacit understanding. In this day and age, those who had never touched a woman in their 20s were mostly very poor. As for the three of them, they had been born into wealthy families. They had already experienced countless women. Life was short and they should enjoy themselves in the moment. To them, having 3 wives and 4 concubines was something that they should do. Lu Bai was obviously poor. It was understandable that he had never touched a woman, but Lin Muyu had an extraordinary temperament and was so powerful. It was unimaginable that he had never had a woman. Thus, Zhuang Xiaoyu and Shi Tianming looked at him strangely. Lin Muyu felt goosebumps rising from their stares. Was it wrong to be pure in this day and age? If that was the case, when Qinin returned, she would have to discuss this important matter with her. If Qinin agreed, then it would be a success. If Qinin was too shy to say it, then the passionate Xiaoxi should be willing. Thinking of Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu felt warmth in her heart. She wondered how she was doing in the Shattered Cauldron realm. She should be working hard to prepare for the war. It must have been hard on her. In the evening, they found a water source in the forest and set up camp not far away. Chapter 765. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky. It was rare for there to be such a beautiful night. The cool breeze blew gently, causing the branches in the forest to rustle. Lin Muyu laid on an ancient tree between the rocks with her arms as a pillow. Her eyes were looking at the stars in the sky while her heart was thinking about the person far away. She allowed the starlight and moonlight to seep into her body. She slowly circulated the star art and cultivated by herself. A faint fragrance entered her nose. She didn't need to think to know who it was. Why aren't you refining and absorbing demon spirit stones today? Si Kongyao sat beside Lin Muyu and asked with a smile. Maintain your strength. It won't be quiet tonight. Why do you say that? Si Kongyao was surprised. Lin Muyu said indifferently, I can sense ruthlessness and killing intent from the demon spirits. I think they will make their move tonight, right? Since we can't escape, we can only fight. Si Kongyao knitted her brows. Are you sure? I'm sure. How many demon spirits are there? At least 1,000 with varying strengths. From rank 9 to Demon King. We can only hope that there won't be any demon the arch. Otherwise we will die here tonight. Speaking until here, Lin Muyu lifted her head and looked at Si Kongyao. She noticed that Si Kongyao's beautiful face was also looking at her. Lin Muyu's eyes turned gentle as she smiled. She lowered her voice and said, Young lady Si Kong, if there really is a demon the arch-class demon spirit, you can't run around. You have to stay by my side. I will bring you and Lu Bai and leave by shattering the void. After that, I will bring Lu Bai and fly. We will leave the forest of no return as soon as possible. Really? Si Kongyao felt warm and happy. Although Lin Muyu said that they should run away, he still had her in his heart and put her in front of Shang Qian. Shang Qian was the #1 beauty in the empire and was more feminine than her. After all, she was older and more mature. Sometimes a girl's mind was so simple. If she loved someone, if he treated her well, she would be dead set on him. However, as a saint-martial saint, Si Kongyao's temperament had become much wilder as she cultivated. She wouldn't submit to a man so easily. She pouted and said, I'm not running away. If I'm going to leave, I'll bring everyone with me. I came out with big sister Shang Qian. I can't go back alone. And let's do our best. Although Lin Muyu was from the Shattered Cauldron realm, she had been with this group of people for a long time. She was embarrassed to let Shi Tianming, Zhuang Xiaoyu, and the others die in the forest of no return. However, the murderous aura tonight was too heavy. It would be difficult for everyone to escape unscathed. Swish. Lin Muyu flipped over and landed on the ground. She walked on the rocky road outside the campsite and even stomped on the road. Most of it was rocks and a small portion was soil. What's wrong? Si Kongyao followed. It's better to be prepared. Let's dig a trap. Lin Muyu smiled. She suddenly recalled the scene in the dragon-seeking forest when she, Wei Chou, and the others were hiding from the heaven beast. It was very similar to today. The only difference was that today's opponents were much stronger. The heaven beast's strength was at most equivalent to a tier 4 demon spirit, but today's opponents were demon kings or even demon thearchs. A trap. Si Kongyao's eyes lit up. She was overflowing with interest. She loved interesting things the most. Young lady, step aside. Lin Muyu raised her palm and pushed Si Kongyao's delicate body back, opening up a space of about 10 meters in front of her. If they wanted to get close to the campsite, this was practically a path that the terrestrial demon spirits had to pass through. Therefore she would just have to exhaust them here. Thinking up to here, Lin Muyu's palm had already produced a whirlpool of wind. Suddenly, the rocks in front of her flew up as though they were being pulled. In the next moment, countless tiny wind blades seeped out of the ground in front of them and rapidly spun, cutting the ground into tiny pieces. In just a moment, a 3-meter wide, 30-meter long and 8-meter deep pit appeared in front of them. However, this was an undisguised trap. Lin Muyu controlled the law of wind and piled a pile of rocks on the hillside behind the campsite, greatly increasing the height of the hillside. Shang Qian also walked over at this moment and looked at Lin Muyu in amazement. Rumble, 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 huge trees collapsed one after another. Lin Muyu brandished his long sword and continuously cut down the thin branches and leaves. Then he used his fire god's power to evaporate the tree trunks and threw all of them into the trap. The branches were then used as a cover. Young hero, how do you know all of this? Shang Qian finally couldn't help but ask. Lin Muyu smiled and said, When I was young, I followed his honor to travel around and cultivate. I encountered quite a few wild beasts, so I already know how to protect myself. As long as the low-grade demon spirits fall into the trap, we just need to throw a torch and it will be enough to kill them 7 to 8 times. Shang Qian nodded and smiled, and behind him Zhuang Xiaoyu and Bai Mingjia also walked over. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face was filled with disdain as he smiled and said, Young hero, this is too unnecessary. What's the use of killing a few low-grade demon spirits? Using this kind of trick is completely useless. Lin Muyu didn't explain. He leaped back onto the tree and closed his eyes. He had already done all he could, the rest would depend on everyone's luck. However, everyone waited for a long time. It was around 3 in the morning, but the demon spirits still didn't attack. Could it be that they have given up on attacking us? Zhuang Xiaoyu put away his purple gold fan. Not necessarily. Bai Mingjie's hand was on the hilt of his sword as he quietly sat there. He knew that his strength was not as good as Zhuang Xiaoyu's, nor was it as good as Lin Muyu and Si Kongyao's. Therefore the only thing he could do was to conserve his strength and survive the upcoming battle. Aoo! In the distance, a wolf's howl could be heard, which also meant that the demon spirits were invading. They're here. Lin Muyu flipped himself up from the tree, his gaze was like a sword as he looked into the distance and said, "So many, they're coming together. Everyone be careful. Everyone retreat, don't get close to the entrance of the valley." Zhuang Xiaoyu stepped on the air and flew up. Looking into the distance, he saw a blood-red light soaring into the sky. A black mass of demon spirits were flying over. Some were running on the ground, some were flying in the sky. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face instantly turned pale as he said, "Ah Yao, so many flying-type demon spirits, what should we do?" Si Kongyao clenched his teeth and pulled out his sword with a clang. The divine power of the ice mystic art surged on the blade as he said, "What other choice do we have besides fighting them to the death? Do we still have to negotiate?" The demon spirits naturally wouldn't negotiate. Humans had intruded into their territory, so they could only be satisfied by slaughtering. At this moment, Shang Qian raised his head to look at Lin Muyu, only to find that this strange guy actually took out a blood-red longbow from his spatial bag. It didn't look like an ordinary item, and with a wave of his hand, he took out a quiver filled with silver arrows. That was the luster of a white diamond arrow. Squeak! Lin Muyu lightly exerted force and pulled the longbow into a full moon shape. Although his archery skills were far from Wei Chao's, as his cultivation increased, he became more proficient. At the very least, any large target within 200 meters would not be able to escape from his arrows. Whoosh! The white diamond arrow carried a strand of divine power as it pierced through the sky. With a piu sound, it shot into the head of a Class 6 demon spirit wolf, directly piercing through its brain. This demon spirit wolf also became the first victim of tonight's bloody battle. He is actually proficient in archery? Si Kongyao looked back, her eyes were almost filled with little stars. In Si Kongyao's eyes, this guy is becoming more and more perfect, like a real god. After shooting the arrow, Lin Muyu did not stop. He quickly took out a second white diamond arrow and placed it on the bowstring. In less than a second, the arrow was shot out with a powerful force, once again piercing through the head. That was a Class 7 flying-type demon spirit. It looked like a hornet, but its body was similar to a Tibetan mastiff. Its body was covered in hard armor, but this hard armor was simply unable to block the tip of the white diamond arrow. Arrow after arrow, Lin Muyu stood on top of the tree. In a blink of an eye, he had already killed dozens of demon spirits on the ground and in the air. Although they were all low-ranked demon spirits, it greatly boosted the morale of the demon spirits. Furthermore, the death of the low-ranked demon spirits also caused their companions to feel fear. The demon spirit that was running at the front even revealed a little bit of satisfaction. Jie, a sharp bird cry came from the sky. There were streaks of flames. Zhuang Xiaoyu raised his head to take a look, his face was pale. "Be careful, it's a Class 5 demon spirit, Flamingo. Flamingo can control fire, don't let them get close or else the camp will be finished." Flamingo? Lin Muyu took out another arrow, knocked it on the bow, and aimed at the flamingo in the distance. Both of her eyes were covered with a layer of faint gold, and her vision suddenly became very clear. The flamingo's body is even bigger than a wolf falcon, but its head is extremely small, only the size of a cat's head. She must shoot its head, otherwise she might not be able to kill it. After all, it's a Class 5 demon spirit. So, the arrow flew out, accurately hitting the flamingo's head. However, only a jie sound could be heard. The flamingo's body slightly trembled in the air, flapped its wings and actually flew back up. This arrow actually did not pierce through the flamingo's head? Such a hard skull. This arrow contained 10% of Lin Muyu's strength. Clenching her teeth, she can no longer save her divine power, she used 20% of her strength. This arrow directly pierced through the flamingo's head, and a streak of flames fell from the sky. Before it landed, the flames were extinguished. Good archery. Si Kongyao sincerely praised. Lin Muyu was speechless for a while. If this archery is considered good, then Wei Chao's archery must be considered godly. Chapter 766. Roar, roar, roar. The ground slightly trembled as a group of black shadows charged over from the entrance of the valley. Their bodies were heavy. It's a group of rhinoceroses with weird faces. Their faces looked like Curator King. It's the human-faced rhinoceros. Be careful, it's a Tier 4 demon spirit. Qin Hang shouted. Tier 4 demon spirit. Lin Muyu's heart sank. It seems like her plan is going to fail. A Tier 4 demon spirit's strength is at least equivalent to the Holy King realm. These huge human-faced rhinoceroses are charging over. Can the trap she dug really kill them? Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, dozens of human-faced rhinoceroses fell into the trap. She could only try her best. Lin Muyu raised her palm. Heavenly fire descended from the sky and fell into the trap, quickly igniting the firewood in the trap. The human-faced rhinoceroses are land creatures. They haven't cultivated to human form yet. They wailed in pain, but they didn't show any signs of being burned to death. Instead, they crazily smashed into the soil in the trap, causing the ground to tremble as if they've gone mad. In the sky there were dozens of flamingos and different flying creatures, but they're all demon spirits. Lin Muyu shot out arrows as fast as she could. She doesn't want to make a move right now. There's definitely a stronger demon spirit behind this flock of flamingos. She has to preserve her strength to escape. Let's go. Zhuang Xiaoyu flew up and waved his purple gold fan. A gale soared into the sky, shredding 2 flamingos into pieces. Bai Mingjie also raised his long sword and fought with a Tier 4 demon spirit. Shang Qian stood outside the camp. Her eyes reflected the figures fighting with the others. She said in a low voice, "Uncle Chen, you should go as well. Otherwise, everyone might really die. Missy, take care of yourself." Qin Hang took out a weapon from his interspatial bag. It's an azure spear, rock collapse spear. Rank 6 sacred grade spear. It's a pretty good weapon in the Tianji Empire. With an angry roar, Qin Hang was like a bolt of lightning as he arrived in front of the traps. The rock-crushing spear pierced into the mouth of a human-faced rhinoceros with lightning speed. Earth attribute divine force surged and directly crushed the head of the human-faced rhinoceros. A 4th-tier demon spirit was actually killed by him in one hit. The rock collapse spear danced wildly, killing one demon spirit after another. Qin Hang was indeed a sacred grade martial king. Against a demon spirit below the demon venerable rank, it's simply a massacre. The flames became colder. The flamingos in the sky quickly flapped their wings, condensed fire arrows and shot down. Wu, Si Kongyao, who was fighting with a demon venerable, couldn't help but find it a little difficult to deal with. She held her sword and retreated dozens of meters. She gently raised her palm and condensed an ice shield to block the flamingo's attack. Clang, 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 the flame arrows splashed on the surface of the ice shield. This was a great consumption of Si Kongyao's divine power. Die. Si Kongyao suddenly shuttled through space. She stepped on a cloud and slashed the flamingo's head. She then flipped and retreated to avoid the attacks of 2 stingy bees. The ice dome in her palm was dense. Overwhelming power surged. The first style of the ice mystic art, Frost, danced in the sky and froze a few flying type Tier 6 demon spirits into ice cubes. Missy Sikong, good job. Lu Bai cheered from afar. However, at this moment, a woman's delicate shout came from behind. Missy Sikong? Go to hell. It's a woman wearing green clothes. There are 2 patterns on her neck. She's a Demon King level demon spirit. However, she's already in human form. Furthermore, she's a very enchanting woman. Her degree of provocation far exceeds Si Kongyao and Shang Qian. She waved her sharp claws and attacked Si Kongyao's back. Si Kongyao, who had just broken through space once, can no longer use this ability. She hastily swung her sword. Ice and snow fluttered in the air. Ice blade. Bang! The ice blade was actually torn apart by the Demon King's sharp claws. The enchanting woman grabbed onto Si Kongyao's sword and swung it with all her might. She actually brought Si Kongyao's body down to the ground. With a loud crash, the air currents reverberated as Si Kongyao fell to the ground, creating a huge crater. Her face was filled with anger as she grabbed the Demon King's wrist with a backhand. The dome of ice around her rapidly swirled. Ice blade cage. Poo 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 sounds rang out as the surrounding ice dome blades formed a cage. They collided with the demon monarch's body like sharp swords, directly piercing through her clothes. Under the moonlight, her beautiful body was covered in wounds. Sikong Yao's strength was not fake. Furthermore, she was well versed in Sikong Ming's secret art. Even if she could not completely defeat a demon monarch, she would not be defeated. However, this isn't a one-on-one battle. Bang! Si Kongyao's body suddenly trembled. Behind her, a huge man-faced rhinoceros slammed its horn heavily into her back. The ice-dome chi shattered and Si Kongyao immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. The Demon King laughed loudly and threw Si Kongyao's body into the crater. She screamed, "Brats, eat her for me!" Rustling sounds came from the ground. It was a group of beetles crawling out from the ground. "It's the carrion beetles?" Zhuang Xiaoyu, who was being held back by two demonic venerables, was shocked. He turned to look at Lin Muyu and roared, "Do you want to watch Yao die? You trash, do you only know how to watch from afar?" Shwa. A streak of light shot out from the cliff. Lin Muyu originally didn't want to use this move, but it seemed like she had no choice but to use it now. The wind from her punch was biting cold, carrying the power of chaos of the lives as it swept out. Bang! The explosion of power sent a group of carrion beetles flying. Lin Muyu bent down and wrapped one hand around Si Kongyao's waist. Si Kongyao's face was pale, and the corner of her mouth was full of blood. However, a smile appeared on her face. "I knew you would save me, don't speak." Lin Muyu raised her head and saw that the Demon King was no longer wearing any clothes. She walked over in a seductive manner. She was indeed a stunner but also a deadly creature. She looked at Lin Muyu with a smile and said, "Yo, young man, you're pretty strong. However, you must die here today." My 300+ stinger bees have been yearning for blood for a long time. Behind her, a dense swarm of stinging bees danced in the air. They were all 6th-tier demon spirits. If this swarm of stinging bees attacked ferociously, with their advantage in numbers, they would probably be able to turn any sacred martial king into a dried corpse. Piff! Baiming Jie spat out a mouthful of blood. His arms and chest were covered in wounds. He could no longer fight. There were too many demon spirits and it was not something that a few people could handle. Even Qin Hang was panting heavily. His divine power was almost exhausted. "Everyone back off," Lin Muyu said indifferently. "What did you say?" Qin Hang and Zhuang Xiaoyu asked in surprise. At this moment he actually told everyone to back off. Did he want to die with Si Kongyao? Under everyone's astonished gaze, a golden halo rose from Lin Muyu's feet. The buzzing sound was extremely uncomfortable, but everyone could feel the power of this halo. Moreover, there were lines of ancient characters circling around the halo. It was profound and mysterious. A word was already on the verge of coming out. How is this possible? Qin Hang stood there in a daze. Lin Muyu carried the heavily injured Si Kongyao with one hand. She raised her other hand, and the golden wheel quickly appeared in her palm. It rapidly expanded, turning into a huge wheel with a radius of over 100 meters. Under Lin Muyu's command it swept out. Boom boom boom. The mountains cracked and the earth sank. Hundreds of stinger bees were turned to dust by this attack. Even the Demon King whimpered miserably. Like a broken leaf, it was sent flying hundreds of meters away by the roulette's attack, and no one knew where it had landed. The shockwave only spread out a few seconds later, shaking the mountains and rivers. "This is..." Si Kongyao opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming, Baiming Jie, and the rest were all dumbfounded. God. Qin Hang stood there silently, but he didn't utter the word wheel. He knew that the divine will could only be activated by a sovereign with a sovereign persona or a god emperor. The young man in front of him was clearly not as strong as a god emperor, so there was only one other possibility. What did the sovereign persona mean to the entire continent? It was a kind of king's way, a kind of power that made the world revere and fall silent. Uncle Qin Hang, there are some things that shouldn't be known by too many people. You understand this principle, right? Lin Muyu said lightly. Qin Hang's expression became respectful. Yes, young hero. I understand. Young hero, please rest assured. I will keep my mouth shut. And many thanks. Qin Hang knew what a person with a supremacy godhead meant. He could be the ruler of the world in the future. Who would dare to offend such a person? Qin Hang was just a small guard leader. He couldn't even be ranked in the top 10 in the entire Qinji Empire, let alone the entire Celestial Pole continent or even the entire Three Realms. It didn't matter if he offended Lin Muyu now. But in the future he might have to pay the price of having his soul destroyed. Is everyone okay? Lin Muyu asked. Everyone shook their heads. To them it was fine if they didn't die. Si Kongyao wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and struggled to stand up. She was still holding onto Lin Muyu's arm. Her beautiful eyes looked into the distance. The remaining demons had already escaped. She said faintly, "Have they all been scared away?" Qin Hang, maybe. But at this moment, a melodious voice came from afar. It was a very melodious woman's voice. In the boundless mountains and seas, demons gather. In the long blue sky they fly freely. Heaven and earth, my heart is unfathomable. The moral of the world is a joke. Qin Hang was shocked. It's over, it's over. Chapter 767. The melody of the zither was accompanied by the ballad. It was as if someone was reciting an ancient story, but if one listened carefully, there was a hidden murderous intent. At least, the person singing this song was definitely not a human. It was a well-known fact that high-class demon spirits could transform into human form. For a high-class demon spirit to be able to sing and play the zither, it must be extremely powerful. Qin Hang held the rock-collapsing spear and retreated quickly. He stood beside Shang Qian and whispered, "Eldest young lady, let's go." Go. Shang Qian was stunned. Qin Hang lowered his voice and said, "The demonic the arch is here. It must be the demonic the arch. We don't even have a sacred martial god in our group. We are definitely not a match for the demonic the arch. Staying here is equivalent to waiting for death. Let them resist for a while. This subordinate will fly with eldest young lady for a distance and stay behind to cover the rear. Eldest young lady, return to the imperial capital the way you came and never come back to the forest of no return again." This won't do. Shang Qian said indifferently, "I can't let Si Kongyao escape in panic when she is in danger. Uncle Qin, if you are afraid, you can leave first. Even if I die, I want to die with everyone." Qin Hang's face revealed a trace of pain. "But eldest young lady, before we left, Lord Zhang Cheng instructed me. In short, I can't go back on my word." Shang Qian's face was filled with determination. Fine. Then this subordinate will accompany eldest young lady and risk our lives here. Perhaps we won't die. With young hero here. Shang Qian's pair of bright eyes looked in the direction of Lin Muyu and Chu Yao. No, after using the god power, young hero's strength dropped by at least 50%. Even if he maintained his full god power, he wouldn't be a match for the demonic the arch. Moreover, he only has 50% of his strength now. Qin Hang was a little dejected and said, "I didn't expect our luck to be this bad. The forest of no return is thousands of miles away, but we just had to encounter this damn demon emperor." At that moment, Zhuang Xiaoyu held the purple gold fan shakily and gathered his divine power in his throat. He said loudly, "We're Zhuang Xiaoyu, the son of the Grand Minister of the Qinji Empire, Bai Mingjie, the son of the Luo King, and Si Kongyao, the young mistress of the Qinji sect. I wonder who you are. Since you're already here, why don't you show yourself?" The cold wind whistled and the singing stopped abruptly. Only a rustling sound could be heard from the forest. The next moment, countless demon spirits appeared on the hill 500 meters away. There were demon kings and demon venerables in human form, as well as high-level demon spirits with stooped bodies. They were in different forms, and all of them had ferocious looks in their eyes. They glared at the humans in front of them as if they wanted to tear them into pieces. Zhuang Xiaoyu, Qin Hang, Si Kongyao, and the rest were dumbfounded. Oh no, the demon spirits that were dispersed by Lin Muyu's spirit will seem to have gathered again due to the singing. It seems like the situation is bad. Si Kongyao said with a faint look in her eyes, "There are so many demon spirits. We can't escape even if we wanted to. It's all my fault. I was so careless and insisted on entering the forest of no return. Why did I bring trouble upon myself?" Lin Muyu comforted her. "It's okay. You won't die here. Why are you so confident?" Kamenari is a fortune teller. He already knew that we wouldn't die in the forest of no return before our lifespans ended. Is that so? Si Kongyao felt some comfort in her heart. She turned to look in Lu Bai's direction, only to find that he was hugging the bottom of a big tree and squatting there, shivering. He only dared to poke his head out to look at the situation. Instantly, Si Kongyao's heart sank. It seemed that the fraud himself was scared out of his wits. She should just forget about this kind of fortune-telling. It was too unreliable. Bai Mingjie stabbed his blood-stained longsword into the ground. His arms were full of demon spirit scratch marks, and his face had a hint of vicissitude as he said, "Brother Xiaoyu, I didn't expect that after so many years in the imperial capital, we would have to die here together. It's fate, I guess." Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned. He didn't want to die here. He raised his brows and said, "Young Duke, there's no need to be too depressed. Let's wait and see. For now, they only have 2 demon kings and 5 demon sovereigns. If that's the case, even if we don't have the chance to win, there's still a chance to escape. As long as the demon the arch doesn't appear, Before he could finish his sentence, the countless demon spirits on the hill suddenly went into an uproar. Many demon spirits retreated with respect on their faces. Even those ugly mud skippers with the head of a wolf and the body of a snake also prostrated themselves on the ground. The crowd of demon spirits parted like a tide, opening up a path. Then a powerful aura slowly descended onto the ground. Shushu, a pair of exquisite lotus flower gold shoes stepped on the wild grass and ascended the hill. Under the illumination of the bright moon, it was an absolutely beautiful woman who was around 25 years old. She was enchanting and had a beautiful face that could move one's soul. In her arms she was hugging an instrument that looked like a pipa. She wore a long dress and walked over in a charming manner. Her eyes were like stars as she looked at Lin Muyu and the others from afar. She said indifferently, "Someone is looking for me?" Her voice was extremely pleasant to listen to, even more so than when she was singing earlier. Zhuang Xiaoyu turned around and floated forward. He cupped his hands respectfully and said, "Junior Zhuang Xiaoyu greets Senior." "Senior?" The woman with the pipa smiled and looked at Zhuang Xiaoyu with all kinds of charm. "You look like you're at least 30 years old and I'm only 20 years old. What right do you have to call me senior?" Because. Zhuang Xiaoyu was originally eloquent, but under the piercingly cold gaze of the other party, he actually couldn't say anything. "Because I'm a demon the arch?" The beauty suddenly smiled and said. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face was covered in beads of sweat. His body was slightly trembling and he didn't dare to reply. The beauty's charming face was covered in a layer of frost as she said, "That's right, we are demon spirits. However, the demon spirit clan has lived in the forest of no return for many years, and we have never interfered with you humans. Why do you repeatedly send people into the forest to kill our clansmen? I don't care if you are a prince or a situ. Today you have entered my forest of no return and killed my demon spirit elder. Only death awaits you." Zhuang Xiaoyu was overwhelmed with shock. Wait, what? Do you have anything to say before you die?" The beauty faintly smiled and said, "Forget it, I'll let you die in peace. I'll tell you my name. I'm Nu Shi, the 21st demon the arch of the forest of no return. I'm in charge of the 3,000 miles of fertile land in the forest of no return. Now you can die." As she spoke, Nu Shi floated forward with her pipa in her arms. The demonic power around her condensed into a scarlet cloud, and Nu Shi leaped up and sat on the cloud. Her figure was graceful, and she affectionately adjusted the strings of her pipa. Her eyes revealed a smile that made people's hearts turn cold. She said, "Do you want to die one by one or do you want to die together?" The demon the arch Nu Shi was too powerful. She was at least a god the arch expert. Moreover, the pipa in her hands looked unpredictable. No one knew what her attack method was. Lin Muyu gripped the ice essence sword. He knew that he couldn't force his way out, but it was different this time. Regardless of whether he made a move or not, as long as Nu Shi wanted to kill them, he had to face her. Rather than that, he might as well make a move earlier and not let Zhuang Xiaoyu and Baiming Jie die in vain. At least he had the heavenly book and escaping wouldn't be a problem. Just as Lin Muyu took a step forward, Si Kongyao suddenly grabbed his wrist and shook her head at him, indicating that he shouldn't act rashly. After all, Si Kongyao also felt that Lin Muyu's divine power was severely depleted. If he went forward rashly, he would simply be courting death. The best way was to let Zhuang Xiaoyu, Baiming Jie, and Qin Hang test out the demon the arch Nu Shi's strength first. Qin Hang remained silent. Baiming Jie's hand that was holding the sword was still trembling. Before he accepted the challenge, he had already lost to this powerful demon the arch in terms of aura. Zhuang Xiaoyu couldn't help but feel a sense of sorrow. He had been frivolous all his life, and with his arrogant talent he was revered by the entire capital and even the entire Tianji Empire. He was the number one among the younger generation. But now he had a kind of enlightenment before his death. As long as he took a step forward and accepted the challenge from Nu Shi, he could already foresee his ending. But now, only Zhuang Xiaoyu was standing in front of him. If he didn't accept the challenge, who would? Forget it. Zhuang Xiaoyu suddenly burst into laughter. The saddest thing was that Si Kongyao, who he had grown up with and regarded as his younger sister, actually sent him to his death for a stranger. Zhuang Xiaoyu had always thought that he was dutiful to his friends. But now, it seemed that his frivolousness and pride seemed to have ruined all his efforts. At this moment, what was the difference between him and being deserted by his friends and family? "Miss Shangqian." Zhuang Xiaoyu muttered, took a deep breath and said, "Zhuang Xiaoyu doesn't have the fortune to accompany you in this life. We can only meet again in the next life." Shang Qian stared blankly and remained silent. In Shang Qian's heart, Zhuang Xiaoyu's existence was only because of his identity, status, and strength. As for affection, she was afraid that there wouldn't be any affection at all in just a few days. Wind attribute divine power whistled around the purple gold fan. Zhuang Xiaoyu let out a furious roar and raised his aura to the peak. His body slowly rose, and with a casual wave of his hand, an azure-colored storm swept over. Nu Shirshir, who was above the hill, didn't say a word. Her dainty fingers lightly plucked the zither strings. The zither strings were silent, but a vigorous and formless impact was blasted out, tearing apart Zhuang Xiaoyu's wind attribute attack. Zhuang Xiaoyu let out a miserable groan. His body was a little numb, and there were 2 streams of blood flowing down from his nose. Such a powerful demon, the Arch. Just a single attack actually caused him to suffer internal injuries. The most terrifying thing was that Zhuang Xiaoyu didn't even see how Nu Shirshir attacked. He didn't know which law she was using, and there was no way for him to defend against it. Well done. Zhuang Xiaoyu let out a miserable roar. He raised the purple gold fan with both his hands and gathered all the energy in his body. With a loud bang, he blasted out another attack. It was the 3rd style of the Wind God Absolute, Heaven and Earth Rend. Humph! Nu Shirshir let out a light snort, and a trace of contempt flashed past her delicate face. Her fingers lightly swung on the zither strings, and it was another formless and soundless attack. This time, Zhuang Xiaoyu's chest suddenly shook with a bang. His body rapidly curled up like a shrimp, and he vomited a large mouthful of blood in the air. You are not my opponent. Get lost. Nu Shirshir raised her palm, and Zhuang Xiaoyu was blasted to the ground by a surge of profound energy. Fresh blood sprayed in the sky. Chapter 768. Sound wave attack. It must be a sound wave attack. It was just like the murderous song played by Qin Yin with the 7-string zither. However, Nu Shir's sound wave attack was even more tyrannical. It was invisible and soundless, and it could kill people from 100 meters away. Even Zhuang Xiaoyu had used his family's secret art, but it was all for naught. He couldn't do anything as the invisible attack of the zither wasn't something that the wind could resist. Who's next? Nu Shir's eyes were indistinct, and her pure face didn't have any trace of the mortal world. She didn't look like a demon the Arch who killed people like flies, but a fairy that descended to the mortal world. However, Zhuang Xiaoyu, who was lying on the ground, was obviously proof that she wasn't. Lin Muyu remained silent. Qin Hang was an old fox, but his strength was much more tyrannical than Zhuang Xiaoyu. If Lin Muyu didn't make a move, Qin Hang probably wouldn't make a move. However, at this moment, Nu Shir smiled and said, Qin Hang, you are also someone who has cultivated for a long time. What? Do you want a few juniors to be cannon fodder while you sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor? Qin Hang said coldly, How do you know my name? Nu Shir shook with laughter and sat on the clouds like a mischievous woman. She said, There are descendants of my demon spirit race everywhere in the celestial pole continent. As long as someone ascends or steps into the god state, how can I not know? The Tianji Empire only has a dozen people in the sacred martial king realm. You are one of them, so I naturally know. Qin Hang's eyes turned cold. Since that's the case, this old man shall experience Demon the Arch Nu Shir's secret art. Come on, this servant is waiting for you. Nu Shir's enchanting voice caused Qin Hang's emotions to sway. Perhaps to the Demon the Arch, even her voice and demeanor were already a kind of weapon, a weapon that could confuse one's mind. Uncle Qin, be careful. Shang Qian said. I know. Qin Hang carried the rock-collapsing spear and walked forward step by step on the wild grass. When he saw Zhuang Xiaoyu's unconscious body on the ground, he stretched out his leg and gently sent Zhuang Xiaoyu back. He said, Eldest miss, please treat young Master Zhuang's injuries. Shang Qian flew up and caught Zhuang Xiaoyu. She hurriedly took out some ointment and applied it on him. Zhuang Xiaoyu's true injury was his heart meridian, which had been damaged by the sound of the zither. This was not something that could be treated with ointment. An injury to the heart meridian could only be healed by circulating his internal energy. The only thing Shang Qian could do was use her king's fighting flame to stabilize the chaotic aura in Zhuang Xiaoyu's body so that he would not die in a coma. Eldest miss, let me do it? Bai Mingjie limped over. He was a God-state expert and naturally knew more about the injuries of a God-state expert than Shang Qian. Shang Qian nodded and stood up to look into the distance. She was more concerned about the outcome of the battle between Qin Hang and the demon the Arch. But Qin Hang took a step forward. Divine power surrounded his feet, and the ground seemed to be resonating with him. Every step he took, rocks rose from the ground and formed armor around his legs. When Chen Hang arrived at the bottom of the hill, his entire body was almost protected by the rock armor. Demon the Arch Nusha smiled and said, "Such a powerful earth elemental divine power. But what can you do?" Chen Hang leaped up and stood proudly in the sky with the rock collapsing spear in his hand. He said, "We will know once we fight." Before he finished his sentence, Chen Hang's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already above Nusha's head. The rock collapsing spear smashed down with the force of a mountain. Nusha looked up to the sky. There was no fear on her elegant face. Instead, there was a hint of mockery. An invisible wall appeared between the two of them and repelled Chen Hang's attack. At the same time, Nusha's fingers started to tremble, but there was no sound when she plucked the zither. However, Chen Hang's rock armor showed signs of cracking. Strands of rock shards fell, and he was instantly drenched in sweat. Only God knew how much impact Chen Hang had endured in this instant. "Get lost." Nusha raised her palm and sent Chen Hang flying 100 meters away with the invisible aura. Kaka, Chen Hang panted heavily and constantly gathered divine power to repair his rock armor. However, the speed of repair was far from enough. Nusha sneered. Her fingers fluttered like butterflies, and invisible zither music swept over. Ping ping ping, Chen Hang could only defend. His rock armor continued to crack as he let out miserable howls. This sacred martial king level expert was ultimately too inferior to the demon emperor. His defeat was already set in stone. After a series of zither music attacks, Nusha's right hand suddenly covered the zither strings. The formless energy from all directions slammed into Chen Hang's body, instantly shattering his stone armor. Chen Hang howled in pain as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body was like a kite with a broken string as he fell from the sky. Lin Muyu saw everything clearly. Chen Hang's fall lasted for 3 to 5 seconds. As long as Nu Shi launched a sound wave attack, Chen Hang's body would be torn into pieces. Obviously Nu Shi did not kill him. She was being merciful. Could it be that the demon the Arch also had fear and apprehension? Lin Muyu frowned and looked at Si Kongyao beside her. She seemed to understand something. Si Kongyao was also very strong, but Nu Sha didn't challenge her. The reason was probably because of Si Kongyao's grandfather, Si Kongming. Si Kongming was known as the continent's #1 expert, and his cultivation was at the 94th layer of paradise. This was also Nu Sha's apprehension. Once she killed Si Kongyao, Si Kongming would be infuriated, and the forest of no return would definitely suffer. "Uncle Chen." Shang Qian flew forward and snatched Chen Hang back. The corner of Nu Sha's mouth curled up again. This smile symbolized massacre. Her beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu and said, "You are the one who activated the God Wheel and killed thousands of my demon spirit race, right?" "Yes." Lin Muyu said frankly, "I had no choice but to let the demon spirit attack." "What a good, no choice." Nu Sha sneered and said, "Then I have no choice but to kill you, an outsider." "Outsider." Lin Muyu's heart turned cold. This demon the Arch actually knew that she wasn't from the celestial pole continent? Thinking about it carefully, a demon the Arch was equivalent to a god the Arch. This Nu Sha was a demon the Arch. Could it be that she had already obtained the ability of a divine strategy and could see through people's hearts? "You don't have to guess anymore. I can indeed see your inner world." Nu Sha smiled faintly and said, "You and I were originally unrelated. You pursued your Tao and I protected my homeland. However, you entered the forest of no return this time and killed one of my demon venerables. I have to settle this score. The people from the Empire can't save you, and the people from the Divine Realm can't save you either. Come on, do it." Clang. Lin Muyu drew out the Ice Essence sword. There was no need to be sloppy when it came to making a move. Furthermore, Lin Muyu already had a plan. Even if she couldn't win against the demon the Arch, she had to leave this place alive. The demon the Arch could see through people's hearts, and this was rather terrifying. Therefore, Lin Muyu quickly recited a few chants of the clear heart technique to calm her mind. After her heart became still like water, the demon the Arch naturally couldn't see through any of her plans and thoughts. When Lin Muyu lifted his right leg, he gently stepped 20 centimeters in the air. It was as though he was stepping on an invisible flight of stairs. However, when he stepped down, a golden radiance emitted from his foot. It was the chi radiance of the divine power that transformed into a domain. He stepped into the sky step by step, and the force field of the domain increased layer by layer. It was obviously much more brilliant than Chen Hang's aura presence. Nu Sha couldn't help but smile. Interesting. Si Kongyao knitted her brows slightly. Be careful. Don't worry. Lin Muyu didn't turn back and walked towards Nu Sha step by step. He only stopped when they were less than 10 meters apart. At this moment, the east was already turning bright. The first ray of dawn landed on his handsome face. The morning ray turned into the power of the stars and rapidly surged into the ice essence sword. Lin Muyu's figure instantly went berserk as he turned into a stream of light and rushed straight towards Nu Sha. First appearance of the starlight. When the sword landed, a ray of starlight splashed on the invisible wall in front of Nu Sha. Lin Muyu actually took the initiative to attack when he was fighting against a stronger opponent. This was out of Nu Sha's expectation. Back off. Nu Sha's voice was filled with anger and command. Instantly, layers of sound wave attacks engulfed. There were a total of 91 sound waves. However, when the sound waves were in front of Lin Muyu, they came into contact with a golden radiance. A light pillar crystal that was rapidly revolving appeared. It was the Heaven Dragon Crystal. Buzz buzz buzz. The Heaven Dragon Crystal let out a sharp buzzing sound, causing indescribable pain in Lin Muyu's body. However, it was only pain and not injury. Just as he expected, the power of the light element was also formless and could resist Nu Sha's law of space attack. Not bad. Nu Sha smiled. Her smile was incomparably beautiful. However, the strings of the pipa moved silently and 3 consecutive sound waves were launched. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth. He couldn't just blindly defend. Otherwise he would end up like Chen Hang. Swish. The ice essence sword flew out and engulfed in raging flames. It was an attack of the dragon flame spiral break. At the same time Lin Muyu floated up. Her right fist was filled with the 7 luminaries Xian energy. Facing Nu Sha's beautiful face, she blasted out a 6 luminaries heaven and earth calamity. Nu Sha was taken aback for a moment. She waved her palm and knocked away the ice origin sword with a pa sound. Then she held her pipa horizontally and stroked both of her palms. Suddenly, a powerful impact pounced forward and collided with the 6 luminaries' heavenly tribulation. In the sky, a golden wave of air rushed out and easily uprooted and crushed all the trees in the hill tribe. A group of demons shrieked and retreated. This was no longer a battle that they could participate in. Nu Sha's strength was too strong. She turned her body and used the pipa as a weapon. With a ping sound, the pipa landed on Lin Muyu's chest. She raised her fist and heavily landed on Lin Muyu's wrist. A crisp and clear hit. The pain was so painful that Lin Muyu almost thought that the bones in her hand were broken. At the moment of life and death, she didn't think twice and took out the spirit beads of law. The spirit beads of law were fleeting and in the blink of an eye, they turned into a huge wheel. It was a divine wheel attack. Nu Sha retreated dozens of meters. She raised both her palms and rays of golden light rose. It was also a divine wheel. However, before the 2 divine wheels completely came into contact, Lin Muyu's figure suddenly disappeared. In the next moment she appeared behind Nu Sha. She raised her fist and used 100% of her strength. The strongest attack, 7 luminary stars transformation. Boom boom boom, starlight sprinkled on the ground. Countless stars smashed down like cannonballs. Nu Sha's face was aghast as she condensed a divine wall. She looked at Lin Muyu coldly from afar. Under the chaotic fall of the stars, Nu Sha groaned and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. However, Lin Muyu was in an even worse state. The backlash of the 7 luminaries transformation almost devoured her body. You can go and die now. Nu Sha was only injured but not dead. In a flash she appeared in the sky above Lin Muyu. She raised her palm and an invisible impact fell. Pung? Lin Muyu didn't die. The dragon blood shield that she hastily condensed saved her life. Chapter 769. Pung? Dust flew as Lin Muyu's body fell to the bottom of the hill, stirring up a few meters of soil and weeds. The aftermath of Nu Sha's attack only exploded after Lin Muyu landed on the ground. A wave of golden radiance surged in all directions, uprooting the nearby trees and sending gravel flying. It had the power to destroy heaven and earth. It was evident how domineering and forceful this attack was. The aura in his body was chaotic and his blood vessels were surging. Lin Muyu finally couldn't help but vomit a mouthful of blood. He was in a sorry state. He was defeated. And he was defeated without any suspense. How could a mere 22nd heaven grotto heaven realm rival Nu Sha's 91st heaven celestial the arch cultivation? Moreover, even when Lin Muyu used her strongest killer move, the Seven Glorious Stars transformation, it only caused Nu Shi to suffer a slight internal injury. Her combat strength did not weaken by much, and the powerful demonic power was still entrenched in the forest of no return. Above the clouds, Nu Shi was still sitting proudly on the dark red cloud. She looked down at Lin Muyu and said from afar, "Although your cultivation foundation is still shallow, you will definitely achieve great things in the future. I advise you to leave the forest of no return immediately and stay away from Si Kongyao, Shang Qian and the others. They will bring you misfortune." Lin Muyu stood up shakily and asked, "You won't kill us?" Nu Shi smirked, "Killing you will only bring more hatred. Hurry up and leave. I don't want to see you guys before I change my mind." However, at this moment, a stalwart man on the hill said angrily, "Nu Shi, they killed our demon king brethren. Why should we let them go? Doesn't the demon monarch know about the saying of letting the tiger return to the mountain?" "Li Xan, I said we should let them go. What? Do you dare to object?" Nu Shi's eyes surged with killing intent. The demon king named Li Xan trembled and quickly took a few steps back. He said respectfully, "I don't dare." Nu Shi looked up at the sky and said, "Humph, I'm afraid we have no choice but to let them go." "What? See for yourself." In the distance, the roar of a giant dragon came from the sky above the forest. Black shadows flew over from the light of dawn. They were dragon knights. It was a group of dragon riders with the Tianji Empire's emblem on their necks. It was the Tianji Dragon Riders. "Our dragon knight is here." Si Kongyao was overjoyed. She flew forward to help Lin Muyu up. Dragons might spread out in the surroundings, and invisible auras surrounded and protected each other. Between every two dragon knights, there was a kind of power that kept them together. 20 dragon knights descended from the sky, forming an impenetrable wall that protected Si Kongyao, Zhuang Xiaoyu and the others. The dragon knights were clad in exquisite armor, and their faces were filled with the desire to fight. At the very front, a dragon rider riding a black dragon took off his helmet, revealing a determined middle-aged face. He smiled at Si Kongyao and said, "Yao, you really are here." Si Kongyao was pleasantly surprised. "Uncle Lin Tongtian, you're here? What else? I can't just let you do whatever you want, right?" Lin Tongtian had a doting look on his face. "Not long after you left Tianji City, Master asked me to come and protect you. Looks like I'm really late." Lin Tongtian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He suddenly turned to look at the people from the Demon Spirit clan. He was even fearless when he met the gaze of the Demon Emperor Nu Shi. As one of the 11 martial sage kings of the Tianji Empire, Lin Tongtian was one of the strongest people in the Tianji Dragon Riders. Furthermore, he had a special identity as one of the 3 disciples that Si Kongming was most proud of. He was well versed in the ice laws, and was highly regarded by the Tianji Empire and the Tianji sect. Furthermore, he was a calm person, and was known as a famous general of the Tianji Empire. "Oh, so you're a dragon knight?" Nu Shi smiled. "I knew it. The other human armies don't have such a grand display. Lin Tongtian, have you forgotten about the alliance that the Tianji Empire and the Demon Spirit clan of the Forest of No Return made over 100 years ago? Now that you've brought your army into the Forest of No Return, can I take it as a provocation?" Lin Tongtian smiled and said respectfully, "So it's the Demon Emperor Nu Shi, Your Majesty. I have no intention of overstepping my authority. It's just that these insensible youngsters have entered the Forest of No Return by mistake. I believe they must have had some conflict with the Demon Spirit clan. Therefore, I hope that Your Majesty will forgive them and allow me to bring them out of the Forest of No Return." Nu Shi remained silent. She didn't want to blow things up. After all, it wasn't a wise decision to start a war with the entire Tianji Dragon Riders. However, the Demon King Li Xan beside Nu Shi was furious. He growled, "Lin Tongtian, do you think the Forest of No Return is a place where you can come and go as you please? Your juniors killed a Demon King of my clan and you want to leave just like that? What do you want then?" Lin Tongtian sneered. "What do you want? Let's leave one of them as our sacrifice." The Demon King's gaze was aggressive. "Otherwise we can only start a war. The Demon Spirit clan is never afraid of war." Lin Tongtian remained silent. Zhuang Xiaoyu, who had already woken up, looked around and said, "If we really start a war, I'm afraid that a mere 20 dragon riders won't be a match for the entire Demon Spirit clan. Do we really want to leave one of them as a sacrifice?" As he spoke, Zhuang Xiaoyu's gaze landed on Lu Bai and Shi Tianming. These two were the most suitable candidates. Lu Bai felt goosebumps all over his body. He said, Young Master Zhuang, I'm not useless. I can observe the stars, read people's words, and am knowledgeable. I'm a talent. Shi Tianming was speechless. He didn't know what Liu Bai knew. It seemed like he had no choice but to leave him alive. Who would have thought that Lin Tongtian would suddenly pull out a spear from the pouch on the side of the dragon's neck? It was a weapon that was enshrouded in icy aura. It was the ice-congealing spear, a weapon that Sikong Ming had bestowed upon him. It was also a weapon that had accompanied Lin Tongtian for many years. Lin Tongtian's face was filled with arrogance. He smiled and said, "They are all from the Tianji Empire. If you want to use them as a sacrifice, you'll have to ask this spear of mine first." "How dare you!" The Demon King Li Xan roared and began to transform into a demon. His arms were trembling on the ground, and his arms were surrounded by a white airflow. His skin cracked open inch by inch, revealing the scales that belonged to a demon. 3 sharp horns protruded from his head, and his eyes instantly turned fiery red. With a ferocious smile he said, "Just in time. I really want to see how powerful Lin Tongtian, the leader of the 3 dragon riders of the Tianji Empire, is." The air currents swirled around the hill. The Demon King had already turned into a sharp arrow and shot towards the sky. He opened his arms wide and his sharp claws were filled with divine power. Then he attacked Lin Tongtian from mid-air. Just in time. Lin Tongtian laughed heartily. The ice-congealing spear in his hand spun and shot out. Wisps of icy chi swirled around the spear and with an unstoppable force, it headed straight for the Demon King's sharp claws. Clang. The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Lin Tongtian repelled the Demon King's sharp claws with a single strike. His palm flew up and a frosty palm print landed on the Demon King's chest at lightning speed. Ping! With a single palm strike, it actually caused snow to fall in the sky. Large snowflakes fell from the sky above the hill, and it was a spectacular sight. Ugh! The Demon King spat out a mouthful of blood and fell onto the hill. He held onto his chest, which was already covered with a layer of frost. Demon the Archnushi's eyes turned cold and said, "Stop embarrassing yourself. Immediately circulate your energy to dispel the icy aura. Otherwise you won't be able to protect your heart meridian." "Yes, your majesty." "Aye, that's enough." Nushi lifted her head to look at Lin Tongtian and smiled. "Lord Dragon Rider General is really powerful. Looking at your stance, you want to kill my men in front of me, right?" Lin Tongtian smiled respectfully and said, "How would I dare? It's just that your subordinates are too overbearing." At this moment, a young dragon rider not far away from Lin Tongtian unsheathed his dragon sword and said, "Lord Dragon Rider General, what's there to talk about with these demons? Since we are already here, let's follow the laws of the Empire. Slaying demons is the innate mission of the Tianji Dragon Riders. Even the Demon King was injured by you. We don't have to fear them at all." This young dragon rider was of the Sage Heaven realm. According to the classification of the Utmost Heaven's mainland, he was a low-level martial sage martial venerate warrior. He was basically the lowest-level dragon rider. His cultivation was still shallow and therefore he couldn't feel the demon the Archnushi's powerful energy. "Are you courting death?" Nushi suddenly laughed. "Demon, you still want to be so arrogant?" The young dragon rider shouted in a low voice. His body was surrounded by King's battle flames and the giant dragon he was riding on roared continuously. "You're courting death yourself." Nushi's expression was slightly ferocious as she closed her red lips. Suddenly, a formless energy gathered from all directions and struck the young dragon rider. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Immediately after, blood flowed from his nostrils, eyes, and ears. In the blink of an eye, he fell off the dragon's back and died. He bled to death from his 7 orifices. What happened? The few dragon riders at the side were filled with grief and anger. Lin Muyu, who was on the ground, was also shocked. At that moment, his spiritual pulse technique had already captured Nushi's energy. That was a formless and soundless spatial energy fluctuation. It was truly a killing technique. No one would have thought that Nushi's cultivation would be so high. This attack could be said to have unleashed the destructive power of the spatial laws to the extreme. The high-frequency spatial fluctuation itself was a killing weapon. "Nushi." Lin Tongtian gritted his teeth. Nushi was still hugging her musical instrument. With an apologetic look on her face, she smiled and said, "Lord Dragon Rider, it was your subordinate who was aggressive first. You can't blame me for this. Please don't blame me. After all, we only have a few 100,000 demonic spirits in this small forest of no return. How can we go against the millions of soldiers of the Tianji Empire? A few 100,000. Lin Tongtian was secretly shocked. During the war in the Forest of No Return a few hundred years ago, the number of demonic spirits had already been reduced to a few thousand. He did not expect that in just a few hundred years, their cultivation had increased to a few 100,000. Nushi's words were not to show weakness. Instead, she was retreating in order to advance. She was warning Lin Tongtian to think twice before acting. If he really started a war, Lin Tongtian himself would not be able to escape. If that's the case, Lin Tongtian stabbed the ice-freezing spear into the pouch beside the dragon's neck and said, "Then we shall meet again. We shall meet again." Nushi nodded and looked in the direction of Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, "Your Highness, we shall meet again." Chapter 770. The bright sunlight shone on the forest floor as the group returned along the path they came from. A few dragon knights circled in the air to protect them. Zhuang Xiaoyu, Baiming Jie, and Qin Heng were heavily injured and weakly rode on horseback. "Young hero, why did that female assassin call you your highness?" Si Kongyao finally couldn't help but ask after holding it in for a long time. "I don't know either." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "Perhaps she wasn't calling me but Baiming Jie." "Why me?" Baiming Jie was stunned. "She's the demon emperor and can make predictions. Perhaps the little prince will really ascend to the throne in the future." He said these treasonous words with a straight face. Baiming Jie's face was very calm, but he couldn't help but be ecstatic. Who didn't want to ascend to the throne? After all, the difference between a prince and an emperor was like heaven and earth. In the air, the giant dragon's wings flapped slowly. Lin Tongtian looked at Si Kongyao with gentle eyes and said, "Yao, are you really not going to ride on the giant dragon and leave the Forest of No Return?" Si Kongyao said, "No, big brother Xiaoyu and the little prince are both heavily injured and can't stand the cold air." "And that's fine." Lin Tongtian nodded and revealed a reproachful expression. "Yao, you are really too insensible. You actually went to the Forest of No Return behind Master's back." If I knew you were going to the Forest of No Return, I'm afraid Master wouldn't have let you come." "What kind of place is the Forest of No Return?" "It's a place where the demon emperor resides. That female assassin is very powerful, and none of the great Saint Martial gods of the Empire are her match." "You guys." Si Kongyao stuck out her tongue and smiled. "Uncle Lin Tongtian, we know our mistake. Aren't we following you back now?" "But, our original plan was to travel to the Celestial Empire, so can we go east and directly to the territory of the Celestial Empire through the Forest of No Return?" "This," Lin Tongtian sighed and said, "that's possible, but we still have to be extra careful. The Demon Emperor doesn't have the intention to kill us, but the Demon Kings and Demon Venerables under her can't wait to tear us into pieces. Anyway, we need to speed up our journey and escort you into the territory of the Celestial Empire within 3 days. After that, I'll go back to report on my mission." "Yes, thank you, Uncle Lin Tongtian." "You?" Lin Tongtian smiled faintly. He had watched Si Kongyao grow up and was like an elder to him. There was no need to explain such feelings. Riding on the giant dragon, Lin Tongqian's gaze swept across Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming, Lin Muyu, and the rest. Zhuang Xiaoyu was arrogant and had a high cultivation level. He was worthy to be Si Kongyao's friend, but it was hard to say for Shi Tianming. As for that unknown wanderer, Lin Tongtian actually couldn't see through his cultivation level. Ordinary cultivators would intentionally or unintentionally reveal their cultivation level. Take Zhuang Xiaoyu for example. Although he was severely injured, the aura in his body was still circulating. When he circulated his energy to heal his injuries, a faint glow of divine power would appear on the surface of his body. Lin Tongtian could easily see that Zhuang Xiaoyu had 29 paradise cultivation levels, but he couldn't see through Lin Muyu. This young man was like a bottomless abyss. He was like an ancient well with no ripples. In fact, it was impossible to tell whether he had entered the paradise or not. After nightfall, the mountain breeze blew. Lin Muyu, Si Kongyao, Shang Qian, and the rest were barbecuing food around the bonfire. The 19 dragon riders were perched on the surrounding hills, protecting the group of royal family members in the valley. Lin Tongtian was silent. He hugged the ice-freezing spear and lay on the neck of the giant dragon. He looked into the distance and no one knew what he was thinking about. After eating, Lin Muyu returned to his tent alone. His brows were tightly furrowed. He was thinking about something different again. The Tianji Empire was gathering troops, preparing provisions and preparing for war. Judging from the situation, they needed a large number of warships to advance westward to attack the Qin Empire. Including the time needed to forge warships, prepare provisions and prepare weapons, it would take at least another half a year. This also meant that the shattered tripod world still had half a year to prepare for war. What Lin Muyu needed to do was to extend this time as much as possible. Time was very important to both sides, but the Qin Empire obviously needed it more. Without enough time, there would not be enough warships and magic crystal cannons. Moreover, Qin Xiling was taking the time to improve the magic crystal cannons. If they wanted to win the next war, they still needed this kind of powerful weapon. Lying in the tent, he recalled everything that had happened during the day. Suddenly Lin Muyu sat up. She was confused. Just what kind of power did the Nusslayer use to launch a silent and invisible attack to kill a powerful dragon knight from a distance? The power of the law of space was indeed magical. If she could master and control it, wouldn't it be like adding wings to a tiger? Thinking of this, he opened his palm and a small spiritual pearl of law appeared. It was a white spiritual pearl of law of space. With a shake of his palm, the spiritual pearl of law seeped into his palm. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. While thinking about how Nusslayer used her strength to launch the sound wave attack during the day, he gently shook his palm and imitated Nusslayer's route. However, although his every shake caused the pulse of the air, it was far from Nusslayer's lethality. Moreover, there was a faint sound. His realm was much lower. Sound, a silent sound. What kind of power was that? Lin Muyu was puzzled. Although his comprehension was outstanding, this was a realm that he had never touched. He had the strongest spiritual pearl of law of space in the world, but he could not control the strongest power of the law of space. He could not accept such a regret. He must cultivate to the same level as Nusslayer. After an unknown period of time, a dragon rider's voice suddenly came from the hillside outside. Who is it? Come out. Immediately after the sound of metal colliding, dragon roars could be heard. There seemed to be a battle. Lin Muyu opened the tent and flew out. He raised his hand and pulled out the Ice Origin sword. Looking at the hillside, he realized that a dragon rider was already riding on the back of a dragon. The dragon rider shouted, Lord Lin Tonged, there was someone sneaking around just now. He has already escaped. Should we chase after him? Is it a demonic spirit? Lin Tongtian was still hugging the ice-freezing spear and leaning on the black dragon's neck. No, he doesn't have a strong demonic power. He's a human. His cultivation has already reached Saint Martial Venerable. Saint Martial Venerable? Lin Tongtian frowned and said, take the first team of 10 people and chase after him. Be careful. Yes. The huge dragons flapped their wings and flew up. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the night sky. What happened? Si Kongyao rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked as she came out of the tent. It seems like a thief, Shang Qian said. Thief. Si Kongyao couldn't help but laugh. Trying to steal from the Qinji dragon riders? Isn't that asking for death? Furthermore, this is the forest of no return. How could there be a thief? It must be someone with bad intentions. At this moment, Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming and the others were also woken up. They each walked out of their tents to the campfire outside. Lin Tongtian held the ice-freezing spear and stood up from the huge dragon's side. He said respectfully, Miss Yao, Miss Shang Qian, you're both awake? Yes. What's going on? I don't know. Anyone who can appear in the forest of no return must not be simple. Lin Tongtian frowned and said, I'm afraid this is a ploy to lure us away. We'll be safe here. Don't worry. With the Qinji dragon riders here, who would dare to do anything? Shang Qian bowed and said, Thank you, Lord Lin Tongtong. You're welcome, Mississippi. Lin Tongtian was the leader of the 3 dragon riders, and the most powerful warrior in the entire Qinji dragon cavalry except for Baiming Huan, the commander and marshal of the empire. His status was no less honorable than that of the prime minister, which was why even Shang Qian, Zhuang Xiaoyu, and the others had to be respectful to him. At this moment, a hoarse and miserable howl came from the tent behind him. The scream was very shrill in the middle of the night. Who is it? Si Kongyao looked around and said, Why hasn't Baiming Jie come out? Oh no. Lin Muyu clenched her teeth. Through the spirit pulse spell, she could sense a very powerful divine power fluctuation from the tent behind them. Someone must be here and not a weak one at that. Everyone hurried over. When they opened Baiming Jie's tent, they were all scared out of their wits. Baiming Jie was lying quietly in the tent with an arrow in his chest. Blood was still flowing. He was dead. The son of the Luo king had been assassinated. Moreover, there was a bloody hole in the middle of Bai Mingjie's eyebrows, as if someone had taken something out of his head. And the item was Bai Mingjie's heavenly Dao lattice. So cruel? Si Kongyao stood there in a daze. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, looked cautiously at the empty space at the side. There were still energy ripples from the space shuttling. Obviously, the assassin had just used his ability to break through the void and left not long ago. In the spirit pulse technique, a strong aura appeared 3 miles away and was quickly leaving. It must be him. You guys stay here. Lin Tongtian took a deep breath and held the ice coagulation spear. I'll go after this person. Young hero, young master Xiaoyu, you two guard the 2 ladies. Don't leave and fall into the trap of luring us away. I'll be back soon. Yes. When Lin Muyu and Zhuang Xiaoyu nodded in agreement, Lin Tongtian had already disappeared. His speed of shattering the void was extremely fast and silent. Si Kongyao frowned slightly. She could not bear to look at Bai Mingjie's corpse. He was the son of the Luo king, the young prince of the empire, and the most powerful person in the younger generation of the royal family. Now that he had died in the forest of no return, it was truly regrettable. What do we do now? Si Kongyao asked. Wait. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. Whoosh. A few miles away, Lin Tongtian appeared in the air with the ice coagulation spear. With a roar, a black dragon appeared from the alternate dimension. He rode on the dragon and flew forward. It seemed like the assassin was waiting for him there. Under the moonlight, the assassin held a fiery red longsword and wore a black cloak. Even his face was covered. Are you the one who killed Bai Mingjie? Lin Tongtian asked. That's right. He smiled casually. An arrow through the heart. The top rookie of the Tianji Empire's royal family is really a piece of trash. Courting death. Lin Tongtian brandished his spear and charged forward. He had used 90% of his power in the first strike. Bam! Flames and frost collided, sparks flying everywhere. The assassin was still standing steadily in the air. He held a long sword in his hand, and at the tip of the blade, a small nomological spirit bead was dancing. Lin Tongtian was horrified. His heart was filled with despair. At the same time, there was a rustling sound in the surrounding forest. One by one black figures appeared. There was no lack of martial venerables among them. However, they did not attack immediately. Instead, they drew their bows and aimed their arrows at Lin Tongtian, the top dragon rider of the Tianji Empire. Chapter 771. Ah! A sorrowful cry reverberated through the night. This is bad. Lin Muyu's expression changed under the illumination of the bonfire. What's wrong? Si Kongyao asked. Sense Lin Tongtian's aura. Ah. Si Kongyao calmed herself down and released her Saint Martial Venerable Cultivation basis spiritual sense. She found several auras at the limits of her spiritual senses perception. One of the auras was extremely familiar. It was Lin Tongtian. However, his aura had become extremely weak. It was obvious that Lin Tongtian's current situation wasn't good. A dragon rider's expression changed. Brat, what do you mean? Do you think that Lord Dragon Rider Lin Tongtian is no match for a mere assassin? Do you think that Lin Tongtian is invincible? Lin Muyu asked in return. The dragon rider was instantly speechless. Shang Qian was a little flustered. Then what do we do now? What else can we do? Go and find Lin Tongtian. Lin Muyu pointed into the distance and said, He's in that direction. If we act quickly, we might be able to save his life. The faces of the 9 dragon knights who remained in the camp turned pale. Everyone knew about Lin Tongtian's level of cultivation. There were not many people in the entire Tianji Empire who could be a match for him. What kind of person could put Lin Tongtian in danger? Quick, don't leave anyone in the campsite. Just in case they send people to attack directly. Lin Muyu grabbed Lu Bai's arm and brought him into the air. Meanwhile, Si Kongyao, Chen Hang, and the others didn't have time to worry about the injured and brought Zhuang Xiaoyu and the others over as well. The dragon riders all mounted their giant dragons, spreading their wings and following closely behind. The moonlight was tranquil, and the open ground within the forest was a sea of blood. 2 incomplete corpses lay on the desolate grassland. Their bodies seemed to have been chopped into 4 or 5 pieces. Fresh blood and blood-red internal organs were scattered all over the ground. A thick smell of blood filled the surroundings, causing Lu Bai to hurriedly cover his mouth and nose. He almost vomited. Has Lord Lin Tongtian died in battle? Zhuang Xiaoyu was shocked. Lin Muyu's eyes swept across the field as she said, No, the clothes on these corpses don't belong to Lin Tongtian, but he's injured. Why are you so sure? Zhuang Xiaoyu was stunned. Lin Muyu didn't say much to him. Instead, she walked towards a nearby boulder and said, Lord Dragon Rider, come out. They've left. It's just us. Ah. A stifled howl could be heard from behind the rock. It was Lin Tongtian's voice. You guys can walk over on your own, I can't walk anymore. Uncle Lin. Si Kongyao hurriedly rushed over, and she was immediately frightened to the point that her beautiful face paled. She saw the Tianji Empire's #1 dragon rider sitting miserably on a rock. His entire left arm had been chopped off, and the cut was still flowing with blood. In addition, the armor on his body was full of holes, and there were 2 arrows embedded in his chest. There was also a wound on his leg that had been pierced by a spear. Who is it? Si Kongyao asked in a trembling voice as tears flowed down her face. Lin Tongtian shook his head. I don't know yet. Yao, hurry up and use the golden wound ointment to stop the bleeding. My sea of energy is starting to leak out of my cultivation. If we don't stop it now, I'm afraid. Si Kongyao always had the golden wound ointment on her. She knelt beside Lin Tongtian and applied the ointment and bandaged his wound. However, the wound on Lin Tongtian's abdomen was extremely frightening. Wisps of golden light were leaking out of his sea of energy. The wound was small, but it was continuously leaking out of Lin Tongtian's cultivation. If she didn't stop it now, Lin Tongtian would probably become a cripple in 6 hours. What should we do? What should we do? Shang Qian was at a loss. Si Kongyao, on the other hand, was much calmer. Her pretty face was filled with sadness and anger. She opened her palms slightly and the power of the ice mystic formula circulated, quickly sealing the wound on Lin Tongtian's sea of energy. Although it couldn't heal him completely, it could at least stop the leakage of divine power. This way, Lin Tongtian could rely on his own cultivation to stop the leakage of divine power. Lin Muyu stood quietly at the side and didn't take the initiative to help. This wasn't because he was selfish, but because there were things that he shouldn't do. He had never been a good person. The Tianji Empire would become the enemy of Great Qin sooner or later, and Lin Tongtian's cultivation was destined to be one of the generals of the Tianji Empire. If he healed Lin Tongtian now, and Lin Tongtian's hands were stained with the blood of the soldiers of the Qin Empire in the future, he could only blame it on Lin Muyu. His bottom line was not to kill Lin Tongtian here. If he wanted to kill him, he had to do it on the battlefield. The 9 dragon knights rode on their giant dragons and circled the area, looking for the assailants. However, they couldn't find them. Only heaven knew who the assailants were and where they went. Don't let them go too far. Lin Tongtian opened his eyes and said weakly, that group of people is still around. Their target is us. Don't go too far. Yes, Lord. A dragon knight rode on a giant dragon and bowed respectfully. Si Kongyao said softly, Uncle Lin, could it be that you can't even tell who the opponent is? With your cultivation, how many people can seriously injure you? Lin Tongtian laughed bitterly. They were all masked, so I can only judge based on their strength. The person who chopped off my arm is a Saint Martial King. He has the cultivation of the 52nd Grotto Heaven stage, and his godhead is actually a 3rd-grade caste immortal godhead. After he summoned the Spirit Pearl of Law, the attack he launched was not something I could defend against. Si Kongyao was stunned. Caste immortal godhead. Caste immortal godhead. There were not many caste immortal godheads in the heavenly pole continent. The identity of the person who came seemed to be obvious. There were many Saint Martial Kings in the Wolf Valley, and their godheads were the most secretive. The 52nd Grotto Heaven stage and caste immortal godhead could only be a cultivator in the Wolf Valley. However, the Wolf Valley had always stood aloof from worldly affairs. Why would they come to the Forest of No Return, kill Bai Mingjie, injure Lin Tongtian, and publicly make an enemy of the Tianji Empire? Si Kongyao could not understand. At this moment, Lin Muyu asked, does the person with the caste immortal godhead cultivate the law of fire? Yes, young hero, how do you know? Lin Tongtian was stunned. Lin Muyu pointed to the west and said, about 7 miles away in that direction, there is an extremely strong law of fire rippling. If I'm not wrong, it should be this person. 7 miles away? Lin Tongtian shuddered. Oh no. What's wrong, Lord? A dragon knight asked. 7 miles to the west is where Fan Rue and the other dragon knights are patrolling. They are going for Fan Rue and the others. Lin Tongtian's expression changed drastically. He said, quick, release the wolf falcons and order Fan Rue and the others to gather here immediately. Only when we are together will we have the strength to fight against this group of foreign invaders. Quick. Yes. Lord. The wolf falcons soared into the sky, but no one knew if they were still useful. Lin Muyu remained silent. He was the only one here who had cultivated the spirit pulse technique, and he was also the one with the best observation skills. From the spirit pulse technique, he could sense that the powers of a few dragon knights had disappeared. Even the aura of their giant dragons had disappeared. Fan Rui and the other dragon knights were definitely not in a good state. What should we do now? Shi Tianming was already trembling. In his opinion, dragon knights were the most powerful beings. Many dragon knights were gods who rode on giant dragons. But from the looks of it, these gods had actually become the targets of others. They did not even have the strength to resist. What a tragic scene it was. Let's wait for daybreak. Lin Muyu looked up at the sky and said, let's wait until daybreak. Otherwise, we will only be at a disadvantage when they are in the dark and we are in the light. Lini, start a fire here. We will protect Lord Lin Tongtian until daybreak. Alright. Lu Bai did not dare to go too far. He could only pick up some withered trees that had not sprouted in spring and burn them. Not long after, a bonfire rose up and illuminated the surroundings. It also brought a trace of warmth to the heavily injured Lin Tongtian. Lin Muyu held his long sword and paced around the grassland where the battle had just taken place. The ground was crisscrossed with traces of battle. He could not understand. Based on the abilities of this group of ambushers, they could have chopped off one of Lin Tongtian's arms. Why did they not kill him? Lin Tongtian had already lost his ability to fight. It was just a matter of finishing him off. It was too simple. Suddenly, something in the grass was reflecting a golden light. Lin Muyu bent down to pick it up. He discovered that it was a golden badge the size of a palm. There was a flame pattern on it and it was stained with blood and mud. After wiping it clean, he realized that the workmanship was very exquisite. He walked back and said, "What is this? Do you recognize it?" Si Kongyao took the badge. Her pretty face was instantly covered with a layer of frost. She said with a murderous look, "It's the Thunder Blaze sect. It's actually the Heaven Dam Thunder Blaze sect. Is the Blackstone Empire openly declaring war on the Tianji Empire?" "What is the Thunder Blaze sect?" Lin Muyu asked. Zhuang Xiaoyu, who was at the side, explained, "Young hero, you may not know this, but the Thunder Blaze sect is one of the 3 sacred sects of the mainland. It is also the national sect of the Blackstone Empire. If this group of people really came from the Thunder Blaze sect, then it makes sense." "What do you mean?" Lin Muyu continued to ask. Zhuang Xiaoyu smiled faintly. The leader of the Thunder Blaze sect, Longxi, is a peerless genius. He stepped into the divine state at the age of 27, so he always looks like he is in his 20s. He is very young and he also has the forged deity lattice. He cultivates in the law of ice and fire. But that's not right. The person who injured Uncle Lin was in the 52nd heaven realm, and Longxi had already reached the 92nd heaven realm a few hundred years ago. That's not right. Si Kongyao nodded and pondered for a while. She said, "Could it be that he deliberately lowered his cultivation to create the illusion that the Wolf Valley attacked us, so as to cause a war between the Tianji Empire and the Wolf Valley?" "It's hard to say." Zhuang Xiaoyu said, "The Blackstone Empire has always been the weaker of the 3 empires. If we start a war with the Wolf Valley, they will be happy to see it." Lin Tongtian, who was lying on the ground, said, "Stop making wild guesses. Now, what we need to think about is how to get out of here alive." In the distance, the wind was whistling. Lord Dragon Knight, Fan Rui and the others are back. Chapter 772. Only 3 people returned. The 3 Dragon Knights, including Fan Rui, stumbled down from the sky and landed on the ground. One of them even fell directly to the ground with his dragon. There was a huge wound on the dragon's wing, and the entire wing seemed to have been chopped off by a sword. Fan Rui was also heavily injured. His face was covered in blood, and there were several sword wounds on his legs and shoulders. There was even an arrow stuck in his back, almost piercing through his heart. "Help me up," Lin Tongtian said shakily. Si Kongyao hurriedly helped Lin Tongtian up. "Sir." Fan Rui flipped down from the dragon's back. His face was full of depression and his eyes were bloodshot. He knelt on one knee and refused to get up. "I have failed you, sir. We were ambushed. The attackers were very strong. We suffered heavy losses. 7 of our dragon riders died in battle. The 3 of us were lucky enough to escape and return to sea, sir. As he spoke, Fan Rui raised his head and saw that one of Lin Tongtian's arms was missing. He shuddered. Sir, your arm? Lin Tongtian felt an inexplicable chill in his heart. Don't blame yourself. They ambushed me first and then went to ambush you. All the blame is on me. Lin Tongtian, thought too highly of myself and underestimated the enemy. As a result, everyone was harmed. No, it's not Sir's fault. Fan Rui held onto a broken dragon sword. His face was ashen. Our brothers who died in battle will not blame anyone. They were protecting our territory and sacrificed their lives for our country. Sir, don't blame yourself. Lin Tongtian took a deep breath. They killed the dragon riders. Did they take the dragon away? Dragons were one of the most conspicuous treasures in the celestial pole continent. They had a long lifespan, and their mating and childbirth periods were also very long. Their birth rate was also very low. As a result, there were only about 1,000 dragon riders in the celestial pole continent. Every dragon cost a lot. The gold coins needed to nurture a dragon rider army was definitely equivalent to the taxes of a province. They didn't, Fan Rui said. Those bastards killed the dragon and took the dragon crystal. They only wanted to kill, not to take the dragon. Those bastards. Lin Tongtian took a deep breath. How many wolf falcons do we have left? 2. Send one to Jianghu city to ask for help. Yes. Lin Muyu said, I'm afraid the wolf falcon might not be able to reach Jianghu city, right? I know, but this is also a chance for us. Lin Tongtian glanced at Lin Muyu and said, Young hero, you don't seem to be afraid at all? What's the point of being afraid? Lin Muyu crossed her arms and spoke in a carefree manner. Yes, if fear worked, then everyone would be saved. Si Kongyao supported Lin Tongtian and asked, Uncle Lin, what should we do now? Travel during the day and gather together to rest at night. Do not separate. Lin Tongtian sighed, We'll be safe once we enter the Celestial Empire's official road. There are troops from the Celestial Empire around the official road. As long as we ask for their help, they will definitely help us. Yes, that's the only way. Lin Muyu didn't mind. He just wanted to see what the Celestial Empire's troops were like. The Celestial Empire occupied 40% of the entire Celestial Pole continent. They would be one of the strongest enemies in the future. They had to know their enemies well. After daybreak, everyone cooked and ate. Then they continued their journey. This time they didn't have to worry about any injuries. They split up, either flying or riding dragons. They tried their best to fly out of the forest of no return before nightfall and escape from this land cursed by death. The wind whistled. Lin Muyu held Lu Bai's arm with one hand and carried him in the front. Behind them were 12 giant dragons flying slowly. Lin Tongtian's giant dragon had been killed in order to protect him. It was beheaded and abandoned in the wilderness. Lin Tongtian didn't even allow his subordinates to retrieve the dragon crystal. Although the dragon crystal was the most precious part of a giant dragon, Lin Tongtian couldn't bear to do so. After all, it was a mount that had accompanied him for many years. After flying for less than 2 hours, a faint aura came from the clouds in front of them. In the blink of an eye, Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse detection technique detected a large number of powerful auras. She couldn't help but frown and said, Not good. There's something in the sky in front of us. There's something in the sky? Dragon Knight Fan Rui was stunned. What could it be? Lin Tongtian squinted his eyes and said loudly, Land. We can't fly anymore. It's the sting bees. That's right. Although the sting bees were only 6-tier demon spirits, there was a large number of them. Once they were surrounded by thousands of sting bees, even the Saint Martial God might not be able to escape safely. Zhuang Xiaoyu waved his purple gold fan and said, Land. The giant dragons swooped down. When everyone landed, they looked up and saw a dense swarm of sting bees covering the sky. There were at least tens of thousands of them. It turned out that Monster Emperor knew she wasn't lying when she said there were hundreds of thousands of demon spirits in the forest of no return. Lin Tongtian's scalp went numb. He said, How terrifying. If they are given another 1,000 years, all these sting bees will become demon king bee emperors. I'm afraid, this celestial pole continent will no longer be the territory of humans. They don't seem to want to attack us. Lin Muyu saw some clues. Shang Qian nodded. Yes, they seem to want to force us to the ground. Si Kongyao and Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned. Landing on the ground meant that their speed would be greatly reduced. Anyway, they wouldn't be able to leave the forest of no return today. At night, those killers might come again, right? At this thought, everyone's hearts were filled with despair. After traveling 100 miles in a day, night fell as scheduled. Lin Tongtian chose a valley to set up camp. A few dragon knights were stationed outside. After killing a rocky goat, they skinned it and removed its innards. Lu Bai placed it on a spear and roasted it. However, everyone was so suffocated by the feeling of death that they couldn't even detect the aroma of meat. After a quick meal, they all fell asleep around the campfire. Lin Muyu lay on Lu Bai's luggage and closed her eyes. However, she couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Ripples came from the spiritual pulse technique again. A group of auras were hiding about 5 miles away, not too far away, not too near, waiting for the best opportunity to strike. However, they still didn't make a move until dawn. Even when Shang Qian helped Chen Hang to relieve himself and left the valley, they still didn't make a move. Could it be that Shang Qian and Chen Hang weren't important enough for them to make a move? Lin Muyu frowned. The sun was about to rise. She might as well sleep for a while. Not long after, a rustling sound came from beside her. It was Si Kongyao who had woken up. She took a water bag and said softly, "I'll go get some water to wash Uncle Lin Tongtian's wounds. Otherwise they might ulcerate." Lin Tongtian said, "Okay, be careful. Get close to him and don't go too far." "I know. Don't worry, I'm not a lamb waiting to be slaughtered." Si Kongyao laughed softly. She was still very confident in her own strength. After Si Kongyao got up, Lin Muyu couldn't sleep again. She flipped over and grabbed the Ice Origin sword. She patted Lu Bai's shoulder and said, "I'm going to relieve myself. You sleep well." "Okay." Lu Bai was still sleepy. "Get up early and come back early. Don't get killed. *CK. Don't you wish for me to be well?" Lin Muyu said angrily, her figure disappearing into the darkness before dawn, trailing after Si Kongyao. He had almost completely blended his aura into the surroundings. This was the profoundness of the spiritual pulse technique. In terms of hiding one's aura, it was not inferior to Bai Yin's tortoise-breathing technique. Under the moonlight, Si Kongyao held a water bag and flew at a low altitude like a fairy. The nearest stream was less than a kilometer away. It was relatively safe. However, Lin Muyu didn't think so. The aura of the assassins was still less than 5 kilometers away. However, one of them had disappeared. Just like the previous time, the spirit pulse technique could only detect his aura when he attacked. This person also had a knack for hiding aura. When Si Kongyao bent down to get water from the stream, that aura appeared again. Whoosh! A black shadow dashed through the bamboo forest. A murderous rapier went straight for Si Kongyao's back. Wah! An ice shield appeared and blocked this person's attack almost perfectly. Si Kongyao seemed to be prepared. Her pretty face was filled with anger. "Are you the one who chopped off Lin Tongtian's arm?" "That's right, it's me." The person was very calm. The light of the fire rule spirit bead shone around his blade. He smiled faintly and said, "Si Kongyao, you can die now." Indeed, this person's target was only Si Kongyao. To him, even Shang Qian was not as meaningful as Si Kongyao's death. The sword light was like fire. In an instant he attacked 7 to 8 times, breaking Si Kongyao's ice mystic arts. The dignified Tianji sect's first mistress was actually unable to retaliate under this person's attack. With a kick, Si Kongyao's abdomen was injured. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell into the bamboo forest. The impact of her body was so strong that she only stopped after crushing the entire bamboo forest. The person's sword aura flew like a shuttle. However, at this moment his heart suddenly trembled. Someone was coming from behind, and it was also an expert. Wang? A whirlpool of flames wrapped around an ice frost sword. The assassin could not react in time and could only forcefully block it with his long sword. Dang! At the same time that the long sword was shaken off, a leg wrapped in a whirlpool kicked at him. During the intense battle, the assassin was actually distracted. He took a glance at the attacker. It was the most inconspicuous person among Si Kongyao's group. This young man dressed in a paladin attire looked like he had an ordinary cultivation. However, his sword contained the divine power of the 22nd Grotto Heaven Realm cultivation. Furthermore, it was 2 to 3 times stronger than an ordinary martial venerable's. It actually caused the assassin's palm to reverberate with a sense of shock. The hilt of the sword was turned upside down, and he slammed down violently towards Lin Muyu's ankle. Such a fast speed. If this attack landed, it would at least shatter Lin Muyu's ankle. He could not fight it head-on. In the blink of an eye, Lin Muyu turned around and retracted her left leg. Her body was in the air, and she kicked towards the assassin's lower body. Good leg technique. Chapter 773. This set of leg technique was as fast as lightning and was closely linked, making it impossible for one to defend against it. However, it still couldn't cause any damage to the assassin. When the boot landed on his abdomen, it was blocked by a golden light wall. It was the divine wall. Any God state expert would have a chance to comprehend the divine wall when they broke through to the 30th paradise. The higher the talent, the higher the chance. It was enough to show that the assassin in front of them was definitely a talented person. With a swing of the blade, Lin Muyu's next round of attack was forcefully pushed back. There was a burning sensation around his body. The force field that the assassin had condensed was really scorching. With a sudden turn of his body, the assassin raised his palm and struck out. The raging flames in his palm expanded instantly. It was as though a huge flaming palm was pouncing towards Lin Muyu's face. The murderous aura was terrifying. Lin Muyu didn't have any time to react at all. He raised his fist subconsciously and the 7 luminaries' profound force was filled up in the blink of an eye. The space started to distort. All the 7 luminaries' profound force seemed to be concentrated at one point and went straight for the opponent's palm. 4 luminaries' demon and God's cry. Bang! The flames and the purple 7 luminaries' profound force burst out. The assassin's body swayed on the spot and stood firm. As for Lin Muyu, he was actually pushed back by nearly 10 meters by the collision. The difference in their cultivation level was obvious at a glance. The waves of God's tide on his fist were attacking and numbing his nerves. His entire left arm felt as though it was about to be burned off. Lin Muyu was covered in cold sweat. The waves of his opponent's 52nd paradise were too fierce and he almost couldn't bear it. After all, one was a hierarch and the other was a divine king. Moreover, his opponent had the forged immortal physique. The difference was too big. As though he had seen through the truth of Lin Muyu's strength, the vigilance in the assassin's eyes decreased. He held his sword and smiled. If this is all you have then, you can die now. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He swung his sword gently and frost danced around. It was the prelude to the icy jade frost's attack. Pa! Fallen leaves fluttered in the air, and under the impact of the airflow, Lin Muyu once again clashed with her opponent. Her sword continuously slashed with the penetrative power of jade snow ice, and streams of ice and snow splattered in all directions. The assassin did not dare to underestimate her either. He directly took out his spirit pearl of law, greatly increasing his divine power. Every sword strike brought with it a scorching flame. After nearly 10 rounds, Lin Muyu's power began to weaken, and she was no longer able to maintain her strongest attacks under the opponent's domain force field. What a pity. A talent like you is going to die like this. The assassin leaped up, and rings of raging flames descended from the sky, imprisoning Lin Muyu on the ground like a cage. Law spirit beads surged around the blade of his sword, and a mighty strike descended from the sky. He actually planned to use this strike to directly kill Lin Muyu? Phew! Lin Muyu lowered her body and took a deep breath. A crescent moon-shaped energy seeped into the blade of her sword. At the same time, with a loud shout, the fire and ice law spirit beads flew out of her body, and she unleashed a falling moon river straight at her opponent. Boom! Flames and ice exploded in the sky, crashing in all directions. A loud sound rang through the clouds. In just a moment, Lin Tongtian and the others would definitely hear the news and rush over. There wasn't much time left for this assassin. But what Lin Muyu didn't expect was that River Falling Moon would actually be completely defeated by the opponent's law of fire. Her attack instantly crumbled, and the assassin's sword slashed through her protective astral energy. Boom! A wound appeared on Lin Muyu's chest and fresh blood flowed out. What? When the assassin saw the 2 law spirit beads around Lin Muyu's arm, he was dumbfounded. Could it be that this brat also had a forged immortal fate? Thinking of this, he couldn't let this brat live anymore. The assassin's figure descended with the wind, and his legs grabbed onto Lin Muyu's right arm with lightning speed. His fist descended from the sky, and with a pa! It landed on her wrist, and the ice origin sword instantly flew out of her hand. Be careful. In the bamboo forest, the heavily injured Si Kongyao felt a chill in her heart. Seeing that Lin Muyu was about to be killed, she actually felt a heart-wrenching pain. Was this an illusion? Between life and death, Lin Muyu's battle experience showed itself. Not only did she not panic, she even responded calmly. After the ice origin sword flew out of her hand, she suddenly opened her right hand, and a golden light exploded in the night. This was the light of dawn ability of the gourd martial spirit. In an instant the assassin's eyes were almost blinded, and he screamed in pain. Shwa shwa shwa. The little demonic noise blade at her waist spun in her left hand, and Lin Muyu slashed out without thinking. Poochie. Blood splattered everywhere, and the assassin's wrist was directly cut open. The demonic noise blade's high-speed spin had broken through the god wall, and left a bone-deep wound on his wrist. Bastard. The assassin flew into a rage. The instant he flipped over from above Lin Muyu, his fist landed on Lin Muyu's back. Pung. Under the heavy fist, Lin Muyu flew into the bamboo forest on the other side like a cannonball. Bamboo leaves swirled in the air, and a few frightened hares ran into the distance. The assassin wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, and a burning pain came from his wrist. He used the sword in his right hand to support his body, and step by step he walked towards Lin Muyu. His face was full of killing intent as he said, "I will kill you. I will kill you." However, at this time, the voice of a dragon knight came from the sky. "Missy Kongyao, where are you?" The dragon knight had come. The assassin was startled. If he stayed any longer, he might be at a great disadvantage. After all, he was already injured. His gaze fell on the bamboo forest. That brat was only seriously injured but not dead. How could he be willing to give up? Shwa. The spatial wall was torn open, but he still left. Compared to his life, killing was nothing. Yao! Lin Tongqian's voice came from the sky. His dragon had already been killed, and he could only fly by himself. He held the frozen ice spear in his hand and flew over. He put down the spear and helped Si Kongyao, whose white clothes were stained with blood. Lin Tongtian was so scared that his face turned pale. "Yao, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Si Kongyao shook her head and pointed to the bamboo forest in the distance. Quick, go and see the young hero. His injuries are even worse. If not for him, Yao would have been killed by the assassin." "Oh, N." The dragon knight Fan Rui leaped down from the dragon's back and found the pitiful Lin Muyu in a pile of broken bamboo. There was a sword wound on his chest, and 2 of the bones in his back seemed to have been broken. However, his complexion was still good, and at least there was life in his eyes. "Don't move." Lin Muyu's voice was weak. "Lord Fan Rui, please let me lie down." "Don't move. I need to heal my injuries and bones first. Otherwise, I'm afraid there will be trouble." NN. Fan Rui nodded in agreement. At this time, the other dragon knights had also landed. They looked at Lin Muyu, but they did not look down on him. Instead, they felt a sense of admiration. The assassins were obviously the same group of people from before. Even someone as strong as Lin Tongtian had his arm chopped off by them. On the other hand, not only did Lin Muyu save Si Kongyao, but he also saved his own life. It was enough to show how high his cultivation was. Just like that, Lin Muyu lay quietly in the dewy bamboo forest. He closed his eyes and guided the supreme divine powers in his body to unclog the bruises in his meridians and speed up the recovery and healing of his bones. A part of his supreme divine powers originated from Fushi's divine powers, and he was born with a strong self-healing ability. Not long after, his broken bones began to heal on their own. However, it would take at least half a day for them to fully heal. At this time, Lin Tongtian supported Si Kongyao as they walked over. Si Kongyao had already finished applying the medicine. She knelt beside Lin Muyu and said, "Young hero, thank you for saving me. You were injured so badly. It's all right." Lin Muyu looked straight at the sky, which was gradually brightening. To be able to exchange blows with such an expert is one of the happiest things in life. "First mistress, you don't have to worry about it." Lin Tongtian frowned and asked, "Young hero, since you've exchanged blows with this person, did you notice anything?" "The law of fire and the cast immortal character. Other than that, I don't know anything else. His martial arts are sometimes domineering and sometimes tricky. It's hard to defend against. Furthermore, this person is probably targeting First Mistress Si Kongyao. Are they here for Yao?" "What?" Lin Tongtian was stunned. Lin Muyu smiled. "I don't know either. However, Lord Lin Tongtian, can you imagine what would happen if Si Kongyao was assassinated?" Lin Tongtian pondered deeply for a moment. A Yao is the apple of Master's eye. If a Yao has really been harmed, then Master will surely be enraged. At that time, the entire Empyrean sect will launch a war. So long as we find out who did it, no matter if it's the Darkstone Empire or the Heavenly Jew Empire, a war will surely be unavoidable. That's right. That's his motive. But Lin Tongtian was only a martial artist. He did not know much about tactics and schemes. He said, "But if the Thunder Ember sect does this, wouldn't they be creating trouble for the Blackstone Empire? The Blackstone Empire's military is not even half of the Tianji sect's. Although the Thunder Ember sect is one of the 3 saint sects, they are far from being comparable to the Tianji sect. Why would they seek trouble for themselves?" "I'm afraid it might not be the Thunder Ember sect," Lin Wuyu said. This, no matter how stupid Lin Tongtian was, he had already figured it out. Could it be that someone is trying to frame the Thunder Ember sect? "I'm not sure." Lin Wuyu shook her head. "We can't be sure for now. Anyone can be a suspect. Anyway, Lord Lin Tongtian, you just have to protect Lady Si Kongyao for the time being." "Yes, I will." Lin Tongtian looked at the sky and said, "It's almost dawn. Let's get ready to set off. I'll order someone to cut down bamboo and make a stretcher for you. This way it won't affect our journey. We can enter the official road of the Celestial Empire before nightfall and seek refuge with their army. At least for now, the Tianji Empire and the Celestial Empire are still on good terms." "Yes, I'll leave it to you." Lin Wuyu nodded. She felt a wave of fatigue and fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 774. When he woke up again, it was already dusk. When Lin Wuyu opened his eyes, he found that his body was swaying. He was on a stretcher, and although the wound on his chest had been bandaged, there was still a burning pain. The bones in his back had partially healed, but the faint pain was unbearable. The dense forest above him receded, and when he looked up, he saw the back of a dragon knight in dragon armor. It was rare to see 2 dragon knights carrying a stretcher. It was not easy to have such treatment. "You're awake." On a horse, Si Kongyao looked at him with a smile. "Yes, we're out of the forest of no return?" "Yes, we were out of the forest of no return in the afternoon. Now we're on the official road of the Celestial Empire." Si Kongyao pursed her lips and pointed to the front, saying, "We showed our identification, and the Celestial Empire's garrison general sent 1,000 troops to escort us." Lin Wuyu nodded and looked around. There were soldiers with swords all around them. These people were the army of the Celestial Empire. The Tianju Empire was the largest country, and its emblem was an aggressive wolf's head. These soldiers' arms and clothes were embroidered with a copper wolf's head. All of them were silent and only knew how to hurry forward. "Where are we going now?" Lin Wuyu asked again. This time it was Shang Qian who answered him on the left, to Laohan City, the capital of the Celestial Empire. "We are now in the Tianju province, where Laohan City is located. It will only take 3 days to get to Laohan City." Coincidentally, at noon, we received a letter from the Wolf Falcon. It was a letter of credence, about the engagement between the 3rd princess, Her Highness Baiming Chang, and the 2nd prince of the Celestial Empire, Qinyu. "So, this time we are on a diplomatic mission to the Celestial Empire." She paused and said, "Perhaps, if we have the identity of an envoy, the assassins will not dare to do anything to us." "Oh." Lin Wuyu responded and did not speak again. Just like what Shang Qian had said, they didn't encounter any more unforeseen events until nighttime. After all, there were 1,000 soldiers protecting them, so those assassins would naturally have some restraints. There were countless deity realm experts in the heavenly great continent, so the army naturally had a way to deal with deity realm experts. As for the specifics, this was something that Lin Wuyu also wanted to know. On the first night, they camped in the wilderness, safe and sound. By the evening of the next day, the team had already entered a relatively prosperous county city. The population had increased, and the number of troops guarding along the way had also increased. In terms of the number of troops, the Celestial Empire had 1.5 million people, which was almost twice the number of troops of the Tianji Empire. However, the combat ability of the troops was far inferior to that of the Tianji Empire. They were poor in resources, and there were only 2 sacred martial gods. Otherwise, the Celestial Empire would have long declared war on the Tianji Empire. "Sir Dragon Rider, let's rest in the inn up ahead tonight. We'll set off tomorrow morning and arrive at Frosty City in the evening," the accompanying Chiliarch said respectfully. Although Lin Tongtian had lost an arm, he still had at least 70% of his strength. To these ordinary soldiers, Lin Tongtian was still a superior existence. "Yes, thank you for your trouble, General." "You're welcome." Lin Wuyu had already started riding on his own. He had a board on his back to protect his newly healed bones. This kind of treatment method amazed Si Kongyao, Zhuang Xiaoyu, and the others. They had never seen such a strange treatment method before. Taiyuan County, a prosperous county city in Jianghu province. At night, the county city was bustling with activity as the lanterns were lit. The banquet was hosted by the princess's residence. After dinner they returned to the inn. Lin Tongtian needed to rest, but the few young people could not contain their excitement. After all, they had stayed in the forest of no return for nearly 10 days. They did not eat well or dress well. Now that they were finally in the bustling city, they naturally wanted to go out for a walk. Moreover, the county city of the Celestial Empire was very exotic to them. They could not miss it. We're just going out for a walk. We'll be back in a short while. Si Kongyao pouted and persuaded Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu did not want to go out. He wanted to take advantage of the time when he was injured to study the technique of using the law of space that he had secretly learned from the demon emperor Nusslayer. He shook his head and said, "No, I'm tired. I want to rest early." However, Shi Tianming blinked his eyes and said, "Young hero, let's go out and take a look. The Celestial Empire is different from the Tianji Empire. It is said that the women of the Celestial Empire are hot and passionate. They are much more open than the women of our country. Since we are all here, why should we stay in the room alone? Don't you think so?" Lin Muyu was a little speechless. Bai Mingjie's ashes had not been properly placed, but this group of people actually had the mood to go out and play. It seemed that they did not have much of a relationship with Bai Mingjie in Tianji City. At this moment, Shang Qian also persuaded, "I know that young hero is worried about safety. Don't worry, no one would dare to kill anyone in the prefecture city, not to mention this is the famous Taiyuan prefecture. There are 10,000 guards in the prefecture city. No one would dare to kill anyone here. Otherwise, they would be wanted by the entire Celestial Empire." Lin Muyu could not help but smile. "Miss Shang Qian, you are thinking too simply. That assassin is a sacred martial king. So what if there are many people in the army? That's not necessarily true." Shang Qian smiled and said, "In front of an army of thousands upon thousands of men and horses, even the Saint Martial God would be captured as long as a single demonic heart arrow hits." "Demon heart arrow? Yes, don't you know?" Si Kongyao, who was at the side, widened her eyes and said, "This is the weapon that the armies of the three empires are equipped with, the demon heart arrow. The arrowhead is tempered with the essence of the demon heart stone. As long as the demon heart arrow penetrates the skin and fuses with the blood vessels, the essence of the demon heart stone will naturally plant the demon heart in the body of the god-level expert, and he will not be able to use any divine power." As she spoke, Si Kongyao pulled out a black arrow from the quiver on the back of a guard and said, "This is it. Look at it yourself, the arrowhead is tempered with the essence of the demon heart stone. The demon heart stone is born to suppress the power of the gods. As long as the essence of the demon heart stone enters the body, even the top experts of the 99-level grotto heavens will lose their cultivation within 2 hours." Lin Muyu's heart sank when she heard this. Planting the demon heart. That's amazing. Are there many of these demon heart stones? Not too many, but not too few either. Si Kongyao patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't worry so much. Don't worry, the armies here won't do anything to us. Moreover, even if the demon heart arrow is the nemesis of god-level experts, it must at least be able to hit the target. Therefore, the sacred martial kings and sacred martial gods who have the ability of the divine wall won't care about the demon heart stone at all." Lin Muyu nodded. "And alright then. Let's go shopping then." Luckily, there weren't many god-level experts in the Shattered Cauldron realm. This demon heart stone could become a weapon for the Shattered Cauldron realm to deal with the Celestial Pole continent. It was just that she didn't know how to control it for the time being. When she had the chance, she must study it properly. At night, the streets were brightly lit. The culture here was almost exactly the same as that of the Shattered Cauldron realm. The most prosperous areas in Taiyuan County were almost all occupied by restaurants, weapon shops, brothels, and gambling houses. Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming, and the others were all famous people and naturally wouldn't gamble. Moreover, with the two great beauties, Si Kongyao and Shang Qian following them, they looked serious and didn't even look sideways when they passed by the brothels. However, Lin Muyu couldn't help but take a few more glances and said with a smile, "Io? The women of the Celestial Empire are really passionate. All the clothes on that dancer added up are only the size of a palm. Is there still any law?" Haha. Seeing that his eyes were about to pop out, Si Kongyao also got angry out of nowhere. She grabbed Lin Muyu's wrist and pulled him away. Panting with rage, she said, "What are you looking at? Be careful or you'll get a needle hole if you look too much. If you're really too young and hot-blooded. You can't even resist this small temptation." Shang Qian giggled. Lu Bai looked at his brows and said with a smile, "Young hero Miss Sikong is jealous. You mustn't look at other women. If you want to look, you can only look at her." "Did I?" Lin Muyu was at a loss. Si Kongyao's face was flushed red. She actually didn't refute Lu Bai's words. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face was pale. No one knew what he was thinking. He probably thought that Si Kongyao had no chance in this lifetime. It was obvious that after Lin Muyu saved her in the forest of no return, Si Kongyao's attitude towards Lin Muyu had become much more intimate. She seemed to have the intention of secretly giving her heart to Lin Muyu. Although Lin Muyu wanted to befriend Si Kongyao because her identity was too special, she didn't want to take advantage of Si Kongyao's feelings for her. She said with a smile, "Bai, don't talk nonsense. Why would Miss Sikong like me? Besides, I already have a sweetheart in my hometown." He looked at Si Kongyao with a smile and said, "Miss, if you want to thank me for saving you, just treat me to a big meal late at night. It seems that the food in those restaurants must be very fragrant. I can smell it from afar." Si Kongyao felt a little disappointed for no reason. She wanted to ask who his sweetheart was, but she was the miss of the Tianji sect after all. Such a noble identity did not allow her to lower herself. She said with a smile, "You actually want to eat more after eating so much delicious food in the princess residence. You're really a foodie. But let's talk about it after we walk around for a while." Okay. Lin Muyu's gaze fell on the shops on both sides again. It was time to think of a way to get some demonic spirit stones. In the celestial pole continent, the demonic spirit stones were the most attractive things to Lin Muyu, followed by the demonic heart stone. Both of them were very important. The demonic spirit stones could greatly increase the strength of the few god-state experts in the shattered tripod world, while the demonic heart stone would be a sharp weapon in the future. Besides, Lin Muyu also had a plan. The white diamond arrowhead of the shattered tripod world was very sharp. If a sanctuary expert drew the bow, it would be able to penetrate the god-state expert's divine power wall. If the demonic heart stone was refined into the arrowhead of the white diamond, this kind of arrow would simply be a nightmare for the god-state expert. As long as it was used properly, it might not be impossible for a sanctuary expert to kill a god-state expert. However, after thinking about it carefully, it was too risky. The senses of a god-state expert were very sharp. Perhaps, a sanctuary expert could be killed instantly by teleportation before the bow was drawn. Everything she thought about now was just wishful thinking. Chapter 775. Laohan City was a majestic city on a plain. It was also the economic, military and political center of the entire Celestial Empire. When Lin Muyu, Si Kongyao, and the rest arrived 100 miles away from Laohan City, they were already welcomed by the officials and troops sent by the capital city. It seemed that the Celestial Empire valued this group of envoys very much. When they arrived 50 miles away, there was another group of people welcoming them. By the time they entered Laohan City, there were already close to 2,000 people. They entered the city in a grandiose manner and were welcomed by the citizens. Lin Muyu did not have any military or official positions in the Tianji Empire, so her identity was only that of Si Kongyao's friend. Riding on a warhorse, they slowly entered the city. Looking at the numb faces of the citizens who were welcoming them on both sides, she could not help but snicker in her heart. What a bunch of unprofessional actors. Needless to say, these citizens were organized by the officials. Otherwise, who would be so free to welcome the envoys of another country? Not long after, another group of people dressed in official robes came to welcome them. They exchanged some polite words with Lin Tongtian and Si Kongyao. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, was distracted and only looked at the buildings in Laohan City. As expected, although Laohan City was vast, it was still inferior to Tianji City in terms of prosperity. Just the number of combat temples alone was much lesser. After nearly an hour of traveling, they finally arrived at the palace. A gilded staircase led directly to the main hall. Everyone walked up the staircase. On both sides of the staircase, there were imperial guards with bright swords and armor. Further away, there were many giant dragons standing beside the dragon pillars. Their giant heads were staring at the visitors in the distance. Beside the giant dragons were dragon knights with helmets under their armpits. They had their dragon swords on the ground and were looking straight ahead. Obviously, this was the Celestial Empire's display of force to the envoys. Lin Tongtian held the frozen ice spear in his single arm, his gaze looking straight in the direction of the main hall, his footsteps heavy and steady. Behind him, Zhuang Xiaoyu, Si Kongyao, Shang Qian, and Shi Tianming did not lose the bearing of the descendants of famous sections. Their expressions were calm as if they did not see anything happening around them. However, there was one person who was different. Liu Bai looked to both sides and could not stop exclaiming in surprise, "Is that Zilong? Damn, such big teeth, I was scared to death. Is the golden border on the steps real? Young hero, can we deduct one piece from it? We'll be rich. The palace maids are so beautiful, they are so voluptuous. Wow, the pendant on the palace lantern is a purple crystal. Rich 2F** King rich." Lin Muyu didn't pay any attention to it, and only leisurely strolled beside Si Kong Yao. The Ice Origin sword hung at his waist, his hand on the sword hilt. His gaze was calm and composed, as if he didn't see the soldiers on both sides. It was as if these elite soldiers were just chess pieces in his eyes, with no other meaning. Shang Qian couldn't help but look at Lin Muyu a few more times. He was full of admiration. If Lin Muyu was wearing his military uniform, Shang Qian would definitely think that he was a famous general of the Celestial Empire. Perhaps only a famous general who had experienced hundreds of battles and strategized would turn a blind eye to such a killing scene. Moreover, Lin Muyu's gaze was extremely calm. The more solemn this scene was, the more precious this kind of calmness was. Who exactly was he? How could he be so calm? Did he have a motive for getting close to Si Kong Yao? Shang Qian wrote a series of question marks in his heart. Outside the Grand Hall, a guard captain shouted, "Summon Lin Tongtian, Si Kong Yao, and the rest of the envoys." Lin Tongtian cupped his hands and said, "Thank you." They stepped onto the red carpet that was covered with golden patterns and slowly entered the main hall. There were many officials on both sides of the hall, and there were civil and military officials on both sides. Most of the civil officials looked indifferent, sneering and disdainful, while the military officials were full of hostility. Although the two countries had not started a war, they were not on friendly terms. Moreover, after the plain boundary disappeared, this war was inevitable. Lin Muyu raised her head and glanced around. The eyes of a group of generals met with her. Among them, there were a few gazes that were unusually sharp, sending chills down one's spine. Presumably, those generals' cultivation should be pretty good, at least at the immortal state. On the throne sat a seemingly frail man in his 50s. With one look, one could tell that he must have been addicted to wine and women. His body had already been emptied. His eyes were unfocused, and he seemed to be suffering from a variety of illnesses. Qin Hai, the Emperor of the Celestial Empire. Although Lin Muyu was not a medical officer, she knew that this man would not live for more than 5 years. The Celestial Empire would have to change its emperor sooner or later. Behind Qin Hai there were two young men on the left and right. The one on the left was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a frivolous look on his face. He was the Crown Prince, Qin Qian. According to the legends, the Crown Prince of the Celestial Empire was like his father. He was addicted to women and poetry all day long. He did not think about improving himself and was a good-for-nothing. From the looks of it, it was more or less the case. On the other hand, the young man on the right had a sharp look in his eyes. His loose robe revealed his collar, and even the chain mail on his chest could be seen. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He looked at Lin Muyu and the others calmly. When his eyes met with Lin Muyu's, he seemed to smile. It was hard to tell if it was an illusion. Qin Yu, the second prince of the Celestial Empire. He was the most ambitious among the princes. He recruited many followers and practiced the art of war. His cultivation had already reached the Holy Martial King realm. This man was not simple. Lord Lin Tongtian, the first dragon rider of the Tianji Empire, is here. Please forgive me for not going out to greet you. Qin Hai stood up and coughed violently. He smiled and said, "How was the journey?" "Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty. Everything was fine." Lin Tongtian bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, your arm?" Qin Hai noticed it too. "I encountered an assassin on the way and lost an arm." Lin Tongtian's expression was cold. "I see. The border is not peaceful. Please take care, Your Majesty." "Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty." Lin Tongtian took out the letter of credence and said, "This is a letter written by His Majesty. It concerns the marriage between the second Prince Qin Yu and the third princess of the Tianji Empire, Bai Mingchang. Please take a look. Someone bring it here." After Qin Hai finished reading the letter, his expression was uncertain. He pushed the letter to the back and said, This is your marriage contract. Take a look at it yourself. Her Highness Bai Mingchang is both beautiful and talented. It is your fortune to be able to marry her. You must cherish this marriage." Qin Yu nodded. "I will follow father's decision." Alright, then let's pick a date for the wedding. Qin Hai stood up and coughed a few more times. He said, I am not feeling well and need to rest early. Crown Prince, please host the lunch and entertain the envoys from afar. Yes, father. Si Kongyao's face was filled with anger. This is too much. Indeed, Qin Hai's perfunctory and neglectful attitude was too obvious. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Qin Hai was indeed a muddle-headed ruler. Even if the two countries were about to go to war, he still had to show the proper etiquette. Yet, he had actually forgotten about the proper etiquette, which was a huge disgrace to the etiquette of a large country. Crown Prince Qin Qian walked forward and smiled respectfully. Everyone please come in. I have already arranged a state banquet. Thank you, Your Highness. Shang Qian and Si Kongyao nodded in unison. Qin Qian smiled and his eyes swept across Si Kongyao's face, chest and bottom. He said, This must be Tianji Sect's Miss Si Kongyao? I have admired Mrs. Name for a long time. Today I finally have the honor to meet you. I'm very happy. I heard that Miss Si Kongyao is well versed in the zither. I wonder if I will have the honor to listen to the music of heaven after the banquet. He did not look like a crown prince at all. He looked more like a playboy. Si Kongyao suppressed her boredom and said, Si Kongyao is exhausted from the long journey. I do not feel like playing the zither. My apologies, Your Highness. She actually rejected him in public. Qin Qian's face turned ugly. He turned around and smiled. It's fine, let's go to the side hall for the banquet. The luncheon was on the scale of a state banquet. There were 100 dishes in total and it was extremely luxurious. However, Lin Tongtian was ridiculed and Si Kongyao was taken advantage of, so they were not in the mood to eat. Instead, Lin Muyu and Lu Bai, the two heartless fellows, got to enjoy themselves. After the luncheon, Qin Qian arranged for everyone to stay in the palace. Lin Muyu's room was in an inconspicuous room but it was quiet. Dong dong. Lu Bai's voice came from outside the door. Young hero Zhuang Xiaoyu and Miss Si Kongyao want to go to the Imperial Garden to enjoy the scenery and relax. Won't you come along? No, I'm waiting for someone. You go ahead. Waiting for someone? Bai, you go ahead. It's safe to follow Miss Si Kongyao. All right then. 2 hours later, footsteps could be heard from the courtyard. A servant announced, the second prince, Qin Yu, has arrived. As expected, he came. Lin Muyu did not open the door. She continued to drink her tea. Dong dong, Qin Yu's voice came from outside. Young hero, are you not willing to see me? Lin Muyu smiled. If the second prince wants to come in, you can open the door yourself. This is the palace of the Celestial Empire. It's your home. Ha ha ha. Qin Yu laughed and pushed the door open. Behind him was a young man who said, Young hero, you're really smart. This is? Lin Muyu looked at the person behind Qin Yu. The young man cupped his hands and said, I'm Liao Yang, the nephew of Han Yuan, the leader of the Celestial Extinction Sect. I'm also the second prince's right-hand man. Lin Muyu's eyes lit up. Liao Yang? Please come in. It's not the first time we've met. Liao Yang was stunned. His eyes were full of killing intent. Qin Yu laughed and said, Please sit, please sit. There's no need to be so hostile. Lin Muyu nodded. The second prince was too smart. Almost everything was under his control. After sitting down, Qin Yu said, Where are you from, young hero? Your Highness, you can guess. With your ability, you should be able to guess. If I'm not mistaken, it should be in the West, right? Yes, Your Highness is wise. What's your surname? Your Highness, guess again. Lin Muyu's lips curled into a smile. Qin Yu smiled. Maybe, his surname is Qin. Lin Muyu frowned. She was afraid that Qin Yu's intelligence was far beyond her expectation. Qin Yu smiled. How do you know that Liao Yang is that person? The injury on his wrist. He was a little unnatural when he saluted just now. If I'm not mistaken, it's an injury caused by my mistake. Oh. Qin Yu smiled. Young hero, do you know that if you know too much, you'll get yourself killed? Lin Muyu smiled without saying anything. Why are you smiling, young hero? Lin Muyu chuckled. Your Highness must be guessing whether my surname is Lin or Feng, right? Haha, it's really fun to talk to a smart person. Qin Yu put the teacup on the table and said, Yes, if your surname is neither Lin nor Feng, then I can only make you disappear from the Celestial Maximum Continent today. No, you won't be willing to kill me. Lin Muyu was very confident. What? Because only I can achieve your hegemony. Qin Yu was silent for a few seconds. Then he laughed heartily. He stood up and saluted, I'm Qin Yu. I pay my respects to His Highness King Qin of the Qin Empire. Liao Yang was stunned. He didn't understand what was going on. Chapter 776. Second Prince, you don't have to tease me. Please get up. Lin Muyu helped Qin Yu up, but her heart was cold. The Celestial Empire had such a powerful second prince. He was destined to be one of the enemies of the Qin Empire in the future, but not yet. How do you know I'm King Qin? It's very simple. Qin Yu stood up straight and his eyes were burning. He said, I've also sent a few spies with good cultivation to the Shattered Realm across the West Sea. They learned that only King Qin isn't in the Qin Empire. Prince Xan Feng Jixing and Prince Zhong Qinyan are in Lanyan City. Only King Qin hasn't been seen for more than a month. But there's a person in the Tianji Empire who can kill a demon king. Her age and appearance are exactly the same as the description of Lin Muyu. Who else could it be but King Qin? Lin Muyu's expression was calm. She smiled and said, Second Prince, your mind is as clear as dust. I admire you. Beside her, Liao Yang was dumbfounded. He said, You're Lin Muyu, King Qin of the Qin Empire? Yes. With a clang, Liao Yang had already pulled out her sword and stood in front of Qin Yu to protect him. She said, Second Prince, be careful. The war is imminent. Lin Muyu can only be our enemy. No, Lord Liao Yang, don't worry. Qin Yu pressed down Liao Yang's hand that was holding the sword. He smiled and said, Your Highness King Qin didn't come to the Celestial Empire to assassinate me. Lin Muyu smiled, cupped her fists and said respectfully, King Qin of the Qin Empire of the Shattered Realm, Lin Muyu pays respect to Second Prince. I came to the Qinjua continent this time to meet the real master of the Celestial Empire. What makes you think I'm the master of the empire? The second prince narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, You should know that father is still on the throne. If you show any disrespect, even the king of Qin will be sentenced to death for the crime of disrespect. Lin Muyu sat down again and said, Your emperor's complexion is gloomy. It's obvious that he's seriously ill. Even the elixirs can't save him. The first prince is inexperienced and can't achieve anything great. As for the second prince, he keeps followers and makes friends with heroes. The future ruler of the empire can only be you. There won't be a second person. Lin Muyu. Qin Yu shouted, Don't force me to kill you for slandering my father and brother. Lin Muyu smiled. There are no outsiders here. Why does the second prince have to threaten me? Ha ha ha. Qin Yu's anger turned into laughter. He said, As expected of the famous General Lin Muyu of the Shattered Realm. You're so calm even if Mount Tai collapses in front of you. It's admirable. I wonder why the king of Qin has come to see me this time? The second prince should have guessed it already. However, it's better for me to say it clearly. Lin Muyu stretched his arms. Waves of divine power slowly enshrouded the surroundings. He said slowly, Although your empire has a strong army, the number of sacred martial gods, sacred martial kings, sacred martial venerables, and sacred martial warriors is far inferior to the Tianji Empire. Moreover, I've seen the military camps of your empire along the way. They're much inferior to the Tianji Empire in terms of drills and battle formations. Not to mention the tiger leopard cavalry and other beast cavalry of the Tianji Empire, I'm afraid your empire can't even defend against the regular cavalry of the Tianji Empire. Qin Yu calmly held the teacup and took a sip. However, the teacup lid knocked against the quilt twice. It was obvious that he wasn't as calm as he looked. Lin Muyu's words were like swords stabbing at the crux of the problem. What he said was also the biggest predicament the entire Celestial Empire was facing. Lin Muyu saw that his words were working, so he continued, Moreover, I've seen the map of the continent. Although the Celestial Empire has a vast territory, more than 30% of its land is desert, neighboring areas and wastelands. It's impossible to cultivate. The iron ore, logging and other resources are also less than 80% of the Tianji Empire's. However, such resources are needed to support an army of 1.5 million soldiers. The taxes will definitely be higher than the Tianji Empire's. The common people will suffer unspeakably, which will easily lead to population loss. A large number of people will leave the Celestial Empire for the Tianji Empire. In this way, the strength of the empire will be greatly damaged. Beads of sweat began to appear on Qin Yu's forehead. Liao Yang was furious. He said, You're not the emperor of Qin. You're just a spy sent by the Tianji Empire. Otherwise, how could you know the ins and outs of the Celestial Empire so well? Quickly surrender and save me the trouble. Wait, Liao Yang. Qin Yu raised his arm to stop Liao Yang from making a move. He exhaled and said, "He's not a spy. It's just that he knows too much about governing a country. So much so that he can infer the pros and cons of the situation from the surface." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Therefore what the Celestial Empire needs at the moment is land. A large amount of fertile land needs to be cultivated and used to raise soldiers. It also needs a large amount of iron or to forge weapons and armor. And the Qinji Empire has all of these." Qin Yu squinted his eyes and smiled. He said, "Yes. But Emperor of Qin, don't forget that the Shattered Cauldron Realm has all of these as well. I heard that the land in the Shattered Cauldron Realm is very fertile, and the trade is also very developed. Gold, silver, and iron ore mines can be found in the mountains of various provinces." "That's right." A beam of light shot out from Lin Muyu's eyes. She smiled and said, "But if someone wants to invade the land of the Shattered Cauldron Realm, the millions of soldiers of the Qin Empire will fight to the death. I, Lin Muyu, will also join the war with all my strength. Even if I lose, I won't feel ashamed. But Second Prince, have you ever thought that there are two countries between your empire and the Shattered Cauldron Realm? One is the Qinji Empire, and the other is the Blackstone Empire. I'm afraid that you won't be able to touch the Shattered Cauldron Realm even if you want to. My empire can form an alliance with the Qinji Empire." Bai Mingyuan hides his strength and bides his time. He is eyeing your empire covetously. Do you think he will give you a piece of fat meat to fatten you up before attacking them? This? Qin Yu took a deep breath and smiled with a burning gaze. He said, "Could it be that the Emperor of Qin came all the way to Scorching Cold City just to tell me this?" "No." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "I have a few more words." "Go ahead." "If the Second Prince doesn't want to cooperate with me, the Qinji Empire will naturally cooperate with me. If the Second Prince wants to watch the Shattered Cauldron Realm be destroyed, then just sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. But once the war starts, I will find a chance to bow down to Bai Mingyuan, and then recommend myself to be the vanguard to attack the Celestial Empire. Please believe that I will do what I say." "You?" Qin Yu was almost soaked in sweat. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Is the Emperor of Qin threatening me?" "Yes. If the Second Prince is willing to cooperate with me, the Qin Empire will naturally do its best to resist the attack of the Qinji Empire. Once they are defeated, we will attack from the east and the west. I, Lin Muyu, can protect the territorial integrity of the Qin Empire, and your highness can seize the fertile land of the Qinji Empire and make great contributions. Why not?" Qin Yu put down the teacup slowly, and his gaze gradually became determined. He said, "Then, it's settled. Your highness, please take out the seal." Liao Yang asked someone to bring a paper book. "Yes, your highness." Liao Yang turned around and left. Soon he came back with a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Qin Yu picked up the brush with sweat on his face. He said with a faint smile, "Talking with the Emperor of Qin is no different from fighting on the battlefield. I hope our two empires won't fight each other in the future." Lin Muyu smiled and took out the seal of the Emperor of Qin from the Cosmos sack. Qin Yu began to write the covenant by himself, and Lin Muyu corrected him on the side. The content of the covenant was very simple. Once the Qinji Empire started the war, the Celestial Empire must deploy all the main armies to the border of the Qinji Empire and wait for an opportunity to put pressure on the Qinji Empire. In addition, the Qin Empire must not use any weapons against the Celestial Empire within 10 years. This was not only a covenant but also a peace treaty. When the two seals fell on the covenant, Lin Muyu and Qin Yu both smiled. Come. Let's have some tea." Lin Muyu became extremely polite. Qin Yu laughed heartily and sat opposite Lin Muyu on the ground. He had the demeanor of an ancient person. "Your Highness, there's still one thing I don't understand." "Please say it, Your Highness." "Although the covenant has been made, Your Highness is still the Second Prince and not the Emperor of the Celestial Empire. If the Qinji Empire starts the war and your father insists on helping the Qinji Empire to attack the Shattered World, what will Your Highness do?" "The covenant has been made and I will definitely carry it out." Qin Yu took a deep breath and added, "Even if I have to bleed." Lin Muyu immediately felt relieved. She smiled and said, Come, let's continue drinking tea." "Aha, please, Your Highness." Obviously, Qin Yu was a scheming and ambitious person. Although such a person was very frightening, Lin Muyu admired Qin Yu very much. It was precisely because of his desire for power and strength that Qin Yu would definitely make it happen, even if he had to resort to unscrupulous means. Emperor Qin Hai was muddle-headed, and it was only a matter of time before Qin Yu replaced him. If Chen Yu wasn't willing to commit patricide, then he might only be a second prince for the rest of his life, or perhaps only the emperor of the Heavenly Jew Empire. If he wanted to become the ruler of the Celestial Pole continent, he had to take this step. Lin Muyu firmly believed in this. All those who were greedy for power were the same. It was not until late at night that Liu Bai, Si Kongyao, Shang Qian, and the others finally returned. Clearly they had a great time and their faces were filled with joy. Young hero, it's such a pity that you didn't go. Liu Bai's face was full of excitement. There are lanterns in the city today and there are even naked dancers dancing. Lin Muyu looked stunned. Why didn't you ask me to go with you? You said you wouldn't go, so I did. It's all your fault for not being firm enough. Liu Bai felt wronged. Si Kongyao smiled and said, then what should we do next? Are we going to play in scorching cold city for a few more days? No, let's set off tomorrow. We'll go to the Blackstone Empire. I want to see what the Blackstone Empire looks like. I'm okay. Zhuang Xiaoyu said, we've just sent people to escort the coffin of little Prince Baiming back to Tianji City. We can travel to the Blackstone Empire, but the people of the Blackstone Empire are tough, so we must be more careful. Got it. Si Kongyao was a little impatient, but her beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. Do you want to eat supper? It's my treat. Okay. Zhuang Xiaoyu was silent and he felt really upset. He couldn't help but raise his head to look at Shang Qian, but saw that Shang Qian was also looking at Lin Muyu, and there was actually some loneliness in her eyes. Suddenly Zhuang Xiaoyu felt even worse. Chapter 777. The next day they woke up early, packed their luggage and left scorching Han City. As expected, the Celestial Empire's Emperor Qin Hai and Crown Prince Qin Qian completely ignored Si Kongyao, Lin Tongtian and the rest. But when they left scorching Han City, a group of cavalrymen chased after them and shouted, "Everyone please wait! Everyone please wait!" Everyone stopped their horses. The cavalrymen moved aside. Under the canopy, the second prince, Chen Yu, came to send them off personally. He cupped his hands and smiled. Lord Lin Tongtian and Miss Si Kongyao left in such a hurry. The Celestial Empire did not treat you well, please forgive us. Lin Tongtian smiled. Your Highness, you are too kind. Men, bring me my humble greetings. A few guards walked forward with trays in their hands. The trays were filled with dazzling gold ingots, as well as some relatively exquisite cloths. Your Highness, this is a small token of my appreciation, please accept it. Take it as my apology and compensation on behalf of the Celestial Empire. This gold is for your travel expenses, please do not reject it. Lin Tongtian, Si Kongyao, Shang Qian, and the rest were not people who lacked money, so they naturally did not need these. Instead, it was Lin Muyu who said cheerfully, travel expenses? That's good. Bai, go and accept the second prince's gift. Yes. Liu Bai was overjoyed at the sight of money. He took the heavy gold ingots and stuffed them into the luggage on the horse. Lin Muyu cupped her hands and said, Your Highness, thank you for your kind intentions. Qin Yu smiled, take care, young hero. Before we part, Qin Yu has something to tell you. Please speak. Qin Yu was an elegant man. He smiled and recited a poem. The mountain is high and the river is long. The light snow has just stopped and the rain is endless. Warm wine and chat in the pavilion, who cares about the snow? Thank you, Your Highness. Lin Muyu nodded and repeated the poem in her heart, but she could not understand what Qin Yu meant. Whatever, let him be. They left Scorching Han City and headed to the Blackstone Empire. However, Scorching Han City was more than 3,000 miles away from the Blackstone Empire's capital, Qianshan City. It would take half a month even if they rode at full speed. 5 days later, Lin Tongtian received a summon from Tianji City and led the dragon riders back to Tianji City to report. 9 days later, everyone left the territory of the Heavenly Jew Empire and entered one of the 3 great provinces of the Darkstone Empire, the Red Rock Province. As soon as they entered the Red Rock Province, it caused them to have an oppressive feeling. The Darkstone Empire had a small amount of land but a large amount of people, and the area of the 3 great provinces added together wasn't even as large as the Skydawn Empire's West Mountain Province, causing the pressure on the lives of its people to be extremely great. They rode in the forest. It was March and flowers were in full bloom. In the forest, the butterflies danced and the fragrance wafted. It was an indescribable feeling that made people feel relaxed and happy. Si Kongyao and Shang Qian, the 2 girls, immediately became as happy as fish swimming into the sea. They spurred their horses to gallop madly for a while, dismounted to admire the flowers, and then spurred their horses forward again. Yao Mishang Qian, take care. Zhuang Xiaoyu warned. The people of the Darkstone Empire are ferocious, and bandits run amok. Walk slowly, don't encounter bandits or wandering mercenaries. These people kill without batting an eyelid. Si Kongyao chuckled from afar. Yo, when did our great master Situ become as timid as a mouse? Would you care about mere mountain bandits? This? Zhuang Xiaoyu was a little embarrassed. As Si Kongyao said, he was scared to death by the demon emperor, assassins and other strong enemies in the forest of no return. Now he was like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. The confidence and calmness he had built up in the past had long disappeared. Anyway, it's always good to be careful, Zhuang Xiaoyu said. Lin Muyu nodded. Well, it's better to be careful. Take care. At the side, Lu Bai took a deep breath and broke away from the cultivation of the dragon forging bone remnant scroll. He said, Young hero, I feel a warm sensation in my chi-si. There's a power that's about to come out. It seems that the demon spirit stone that young hero refined last night has taken effect. What worked? You just need to guide the force in your chi-hai and spit it out. Okay. Lu Bai yelled in a low voice. A mass of true energy appeared in his palm, but he couldn't spit it out. He couldn't help but scream as if he was suffocating to death. Lin Muyu gathered her divine power in her eyes. She raised her fingers and used her supreme divine power to strike 3 times on Lu Bai's back. All of them landed on the important acupoints. The supreme divine power miraculously dissolved the blockage. Suddenly, a vigorous force was spat out from Lu Bai's arm to his palm. Swish, swish, swish. It was a white airflow. Battle aura. In just one short month, Lu Bai had actually stepped into the heaven realm from a rookie. It had been hard on him. This kid's talent could be said to be not bad. Of course, the main credit was due to the dragon forging bone remnant scroll and the demon spirit stone's catalysis. Otherwise, no matter how talented he was, it would be impossible for him to advance at such a godly speed. Ha ha ha. Lu Bai was overjoyed and said, It's battle aura, it's battle aura. Great, I'm even closer to becoming a sacred warrior. Aha, this is great. In the distance, Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned. Tisk, he wants to become a sacred warrior with this level of cultivation. He really doesn't know what he's talking about. Shi Tianming, who was at the side, laughed and said, Young hero, Lu Bai is just a swindler. Why did you spend so much effort on him? Do you really want to nurture Lu Bai into a sacred warrior? Is there anything wrong with that? Lin Muyu smiled and said, I believe that Bu Yi will become stronger day by day and make those who look down on him look at him in a different light. Lu Bai was silent. What's the matter? Lin Muyu asked. Lu Bai's shoulders trembled slightly. He held the reins with both hands and looked at the grass under the horse's hooves. He said in a low voice, Young hero, everyone looks down on me. You are so strong, why do you take care of me so much? I have a purpose. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said with a smile, Just cultivate well. I will leave this continent sooner or later. At that time, I want you to inherit my will and establish a sect on this continent. Establish a sect? Lu Bai was stunned and said, Impossible, absolutely impossible. Although there are many sects on the continent, to establish a sect, one must at least have the cultivation of a sacred warrior. Otherwise, one will only become a laughing stock. Young hero, you should find someone else. I, Lu Bai, am really not cut out for that. You know that. No, I know that you will become stronger. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Just take it as doing it for those who look down on you. Just take it as doing it so that you don't have to rely on others and be bullied. Even if the whole world doesn't believe in you, I believe in you. Lu Bai shuddered. Establishing a sect was too difficult for him. However, with an unfathomable backing like Lin Muyu, Lu Bai finally gathered his confidence and said, I will. Cultivate well and don't let your imagination run wild. Okay. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at Si Kongyao, who was galloping through the flowers and grass in the distance. She couldn't help but smile. To establish a sect, it was naturally impossible to rely on Lu Bai alone. He needed the help of another person, and that person was right in front of him. The key was how to make her help him willingly. This was a big problem. After all, her identity was too special. The group of people wandered in the wilderness, stopping from time to time. When it was close to evening, Shi Tianming unfurled the map and carefully studied it. He said to Lin Muyu, Young hero, we have 2 paths. One is to take the official road on the left and go in the direction of Red Rock City. Red Rock City is the capital of the province and can be considered prosperous. The other path is to continue forward. However, the Blackstone Empire calls it a forbidden area. Forbidden area again? Is there a demon spirit? No, it's a mercenary. Shi Tianming squinted his eyes and smiled. The Blackstone Empire is famous for two things. One is the women of the Blackstone Empire, who are passionate and full of tricks. The other is the mercenaries of the Blackstone Empire, who are cruel and ruthless. They have a large number of people, and even the local government is in awe of them. It is said that there are over 300 mercenary groups in the 3 provinces of the Blackstone Empire. The large mercenary groups can easily have tens of thousands of people. The top 3 mercenary groups have more than 50,000 people. They are entrenched in the mountains or in the small cities they occupy. Doesn't the emperor care about it? Lin Muyu asked. Care? Shi Tianming smiled. Of course they care. The Blackstone Empire is the weakest among the 3 empires in the Celestial Pole continent, and China is the weakest. This is because Emperor Shi Yuan doesn't care about the large mercenary groups, causing the common people to be unable to make a living and have no interest in farming. Everyone learns martial arts and hunts. However, once there is a war, everyone becomes a soldier. Shi Yuan also uses this kind of herding method to rule the country. As a result, although the Blackstone Empire is weak, it can still stand tall in the Celestial Pole continent. At this time, Si Kongyao also rode her horse over. She continued Shi Tianming's words and smiled. There is a saying that the unreasonable are afraid of the stupid, and the stupid are afraid of the reckless. The Tianji Empire and the Celestial Empire are both unreasonable, but they are afraid of the reckless Blackstone Empire. Young Master Shi, tell me which mercenary group's territory is further ahead. Shi Tianming said, the strongest of the 3 great mercenary groups is the Pishio mercenary group. They occupy 3 counties and have gathered over 70,000 mercenaries. Even the provincial army is very wary of them. I think we should take a detour. We can't afford to offend the people from the Pishio mercenary group. Why can't we afford to offend them? Si Kongyao puffed out her chest angrily and looked at Lin Muyu with a smile, saying, do you have the guts to take a walk in the territory of the Pishio mercenary group? Doesn't matter. Lin Muyu spread out her hands. My life is worthless. I'm not afraid of those who don't want to live. Hee alright. Then let's keep walking forward and hunt some wild animals along the way. We haven't even gotten dinner yet. After walking for a short distance, they killed a few wild rabbits. There were quite a few divine-level experts in this group, so food would definitely not be a problem. Moreover, after so many days had passed, those assassins still hadn't appeared. They must have already given up. Therefore, everyone's vigilance had been lowered quite a bit. At night, they set up camp in the forest. The 2 beauties, Si Kongyao and Shang Qian, seemed to have also started to enjoy this kind of leisurely life. Chapter 778. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and the whole forest was illuminated by its silver light. Stellar arts and 7 luminaries' mysterious energy are too profound, I'm afraid you won't be able to learn them. Lin Muyu looked at the dancing flames. Stellar arts was indeed very difficult to learn. Situ's son could only learn the surface with his talent, and it was almost impossible for Liu Bai to learn it. As for 7 luminaries' mysterious energy, it was the pride of the 7 luminaries' demon emperor. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Muyu would not teach it to others. Liu Bai was a little disappointed. Then, what else can you teach me? Although you taught me the dragon forging bone remnant scroll, it is after all only a mental cultivation method. I don't even know a single combat skill. Look, Miss Si Kongyao is well versed in ice mystic arts, young Master Zhuang knows wind god absolute. They all have their own strengths, but I don't know anything. Lin Muyu pondered. I also know a fist technique called Fiery Soul Fist. I learned it from Zhang Wei. Do you want to learn it? Who's Zhang Wei? An idiot. Do you want to learn it? No, fist technique can only be used for close combat. It's not good. Alright, I also have a set of Imperial Sword technique, but I'm afraid it will be very difficult to learn. Imperial Sword technique? Liu Bai's eyes lit up. I've seen it before. You used it before. It's a very beautiful move. The first step to learning Imperial Sword technique is to comprehend the heart of the sword and communicate with the weapon. Otherwise, there's no way to talk about sword technique. I'll teach you the heart of the sword first. Whether you can learn it or not depends on your luck. Yes. Liu Bai nodded repeatedly. At this time, Si Kongyao, who was lying on the blanket, opened her eyes and smiled. If Lu Bai can't learn it, you can teach me. Lu Bai hurriedly said, that won't do. Young master said you can only teach it to me. Don't be so stingy. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said with a smile, it's fine to pass it to eldest young Miss Sikong, but eldest young Miss must agree to a condition of mine. Okay, go ahead. I won't stay here for too long. If you learn the sword control technique in the end and Lu Bai doesn't, you have to help me teach Bai until he completely masters it. Is that okay? Well, Si Kongyao thought about it. The attraction of the sword control technique was too great. Her martial arts were the best of many schools, so how could she miss out on Lin Muyu's unique skill? She nodded and said, okay, I promise you. Lin Muyu snickered. Si Kongyao probably didn't know that she was falling into the trap that she had set, step by step. Therefore, after imparting the mental cultivation method and the cultivation method of the sword commanding technique to the two, Lin Muyu went into the tent to sleep. Sleeping was not real and finding Tang Xiaoxi through the telepathy was real. Swoosh! An invisible divine power pierced through the sky and went straight to the other side of the ocean. There were very few people in the shattered tripod realm with strong auras, and Tang Xiaoxi was one of them. It was easy to find her, but it was a little difficult because Tang Xiaoxi was already in Lanyan City, and she was sleeping in her room next to Qin Yin's bedroom in Zetian Palace. When a beam of golden light entered the room, Tang Xiaoxi knew who had come. She excitedly used her divine power. When the two divine powers merged together, she could already see the figure of Lin Muyu and Yi Hai. Tang Xiaoxi walked over with a smile and said, it seems that your aura has strengthened again. Yes. Lin Muyu said, Xiaoxi, how is the matter in the shattered tripod realm? How is the war between us and the devil race? The devil race has been completely defeated. Wei Chou led the Longdan army camp and defeated the main force of the devil race with magic crystal crossbows. They lost more than half of their last 100,000 cavalrymen. Now Chen Feng has escorted the Devil King and the others out of the 8 wastelands. They are in the savage wilderness in the north, and they will not come back for 3 to 5 years. Well, that's good. What about you? What news did you bring? I met the second prince of the Celestial Empire, Qin Yu. He is a very shrewd person. I have already made an agreement with him. As long as the Tianji Empire launches an attack, he must restrain the Tianji Empire from the rear, so that they will be attacked from both the front and the back. Is Qin Yu reliable? No, but we have no other choice. This is the best method. I have now entered the territory of the Blackstone Empire, and I want to see if there is any feasible plan here. Xiaoxi, how is the construction of the ship? A few have been launched, but there seems to be a problem with the defense. Lord Qin Xiling is improving it, but it will take some time. Well? Lin Muyu muttered, oh right, is there any movement from the Yihe nation? No, there is no news from Long Qianlin and Dingxi. They are lying dormant on the dragon-shaped island and have not taken any action. Qini is a cautious person. I'm afraid that he will not take action unless there is a suitable opportunity. Also, how is the preparation of the Empire's army? Don't worry. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. General Feng and Aunt Lien have already made arrangements. They have transferred troops from various provinces to the 3 provinces in the east to garrison. The total number of troops is over 1 million, and the total number of magic crystal cannons is over 50,000. There is a fort every 5 kilometers on the east coast. It will not be easy for the celestial pole continent's warships to land. That's good. Lin Muyu said again, oh right, Xiaoxi, I have some new discoveries here. There is a stone called the Demon Heart Stone in the celestial pole continent. The essence of the Demon Heart Stone is extracted and tempered in the arrowheads. When the arrowheads are shot into a person's body, the essence of the Demon Heart Stone will fuse with the blood, and then the God Realm experts will temporarily lose their divine power. I will find some Demon Heart Stones as soon as possible and bring them back. Well, you have to be careful. Alright, is there any news about the Immortal Realm and Xiaoyin? Not yet, but I believe that Xiaoyin must be working hard. Well, the telekinesis communication consumes too much divine power. You should rest quickly. Okay. Lin Muyu cut off the telekinesis, and immediately a strong feeling of emptiness returned to his body. The short conversation of a few minutes had actually consumed nearly half of his divine power. It seemed that the telekinesis communication was too far away from Lanyan City. He fell into a deep sleep. Outside the tent, Si Kongyao was sitting upright beside the bonfire, fine wind blades slowly dancing around her body. She was in the middle of comprehending the heart of the sword, and it seemed that she had already achieved some results. What a smart and intelligent girl. In terms of innate talent, she probably flung Lu Bai a few 100 million times over. Late at night, Lu Bai suddenly sat up in the tent. His forehead was full of cold sweat and his stomach was tumbling. He was going to have diarrhea. Damn it, the rabbit meat is really not that delicious. I shouldn't drink the spring water after eating it. He quickly flipped over and got up, only to discover that Xikong Yao was still meditating and cultivating her sword heart, while Zhuang Xiaoyu, Chen Hang, Shang Qian and the others were all in deep sleep. He didn't say anything and went straight to the distant thicket, hiding in the dense thicket in a flash. Plucking off 2 leaves, he squatted down and undressed. After a round of pleasurable stripping, he almost cried out. After he was done, Lu Bai looked at the leaf in his hand and could not help but groan inwardly. It was actually the leaf of the iron needle tree. The leaf was covered with thin thorns. If he really used this, his chrysanthemum would probably be ruined. When he was looking around, a hand suddenly handed him a piece of toilet paper. Are you looking for this? Thank you. Lu Bai took the toilet paper and was about to wipe it. Suddenly he was scared out of his wits. Who is it? Come out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The surrounding bushes shook and more than 10 people dressed in black surrounded Lu Bai. We are the 12 guardian deities of the Pishio mercenary group. Brat, you actually did not get our permission and pulled out so many filthy things in the territory of the Pishio mercenary group. You are simply courting death. Come with us. Presumptuous. Lu Bai pulled up his pants and opened his hand to summon his Do Chi. Using his bare hand to block the white blade, his palm heavily hit the chest of a mercenary. This brat is an expert. Chop him to death. The blade in the air was biting cold. How could Lu Bai resist it? He hurriedly squatted down on the ground again. Spare me, hero. I did not intentionally pull it here. Tie him up. A long-bearded mercenary said in an old voice. Truly unsightly. Cover his mouth. Let's go. There is still fire in the distance. Bring this group of reckless things back. Yes. Dozens of figures flew like lightning towards the camp. In the tent, Lin Muyu was still sleeping soundly. The strength of this group of mercenaries was too weak for him. They were so weak that he could ignore them. In fact, even if this group of mercenaries approached him, they would not be able to hurt him. Even the divine power astral wall around Lin Muyu was not something they could break. However, Xikong Yao, who had not fallen asleep, suddenly opened her eyes. Her bright eyes looked at the black-clothed people in the distance. Who are you people? What is the meaning of this? Lu Bai, why are you tied up? Lu Bai gritted his teeth. Eldest miss, save me. I have not cleaned up my mess yet. What nonsense are you talking about? Xikong Yao frowned. Who are you people? Release him immediately. Otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Yo! A mercenary holding a broadsword laughed. This girl is so beautiful and has such a bad temper. Interesting. Why don't we capture her and make her the wife of the first master? Yes, yes, yes. If the first master is happy, he might even give us a few maids. Go take her down. Xikong Yao had never been humiliated like this. What wife of the first master? No one dared to speak to her like this since she was a child. Therefore she used her killing move. In a flash, she appeared in front of the mercenary holding the broadsword. She raised her hand and slapped him. The divine power of frost instantly froze the mercenary's divine power into a block of ice. When he fell to the ground, he was already a pile of broken ice. God, she killed someone? The rest of the mercenaries were dumbfounded. They all brandished their swords and sabers and charged forward. Get out of my way. Xikong Yao swung her palm. A streak of divine power of frost shot out in an arc. The group of mercenaries was sent flying. If they were not dead, they were injured. One by one they fell to the ground and wailed. Lu Bai suddenly gritted his teeth. He used his chi to break the rope and quickly returned to Xikong Yao's side. Eldest miss, they are the people of the Pai Shio mercenary group. When Xikong Yao looked up again, she saw the remaining group of mercenaries had already thrown away their helmets and armor and fled in panic. Their voices came from the wind. If you have the guts, just you wait. The Pai Shio mercenary group will take revenge. Chapter 779. Are you all right? Xikong Yao glanced at Lu Bai and asked with concern. Lu Bai's body trembled as he thought of an extremely serious problem. He hadn't even wiped his butt. Would Xikong Yao smell it? What if she smelled it? Would she kill him in a fit of rage? Lu Bai was already dripping with cold sweat as he rubbed his legs together to hide his embarrassment. His face was covered in sweat, but he didn't know how to respond to Si Kongyao's words. What's wrong? The curtain of the nearby tent was lifted and Lin Muyu, who had relatively weak divine power, walked out. She immediately frowned. What's that smell? Lu Bai felt extremely guilty as he said, a group of mercenaries came just now, but they've already been driven away by Miss Sikong. Mercenaries? Yes, they claim to be from the Pishio mercenary group. There are dozens of them and they'll probably bring more people here soon. Let's run, young hero, or else we'll lose our lives. Lu Bai's words were extremely urgent and smooth. When it came to escaping, his martial arts were at least at the level of a sacred martial warrior. However, Zhuang Xiaoyu sneered. What a joke. We have 3 Saint Martial Venerables and 1 Saint Martial King in our group. If we were to escape, then the Saint Martial Kings would be nothing but a joke in this continent. These mercenaries are just relying on their numbers. What do we have to be afraid of? What's more, Qin Hang's injuries haven't completely healed yet, so it's not good for him to move at full speed. Uncle Qin Hang, what do you think? Qin Hang was only the head of the guards, so he was a bit embarrassed when Zhuang Xiaoyu called him like this. He said, we'll listen to young Master Zhuang's arrangements, but I heard that the leader of the Pishio mercenary group is a person called Lu Feng. He has the cultivation of a sacred martial king, and is greedy and lustful. He's committed all sorts of crimes and is known as one of the evil gods of the Blackstone Empire. However, he is confident in his martial arts and has a group of rascals supporting him, so the Pishio mercenary group is notorious in this area. No one dares to provoke them. A Saint Martial King? Si Kongyao frowned and said, it's hard to imagine why a Saint Martial King would be willing to be the leader of a mere mercenary group. Qin Hang smiled faintly. Actually, I've only heard rumors. It said that Lu Feng used to be one of the 3 deputy commanders of the Blackstone Empire, but later committed a crime. The Emperor of the Blackstone Empire, Shi Yuan, once sent Lu Feng to escort the 7th princess to marry the Prairie Burning Province's governor. When Lu Feng saw that the 7th princess was beautiful, he defiled her. Because of this, the emperor, in his anger, ordered Lu Feng to be executed. However, Lu Feng escaped. Afterwards, he gathered a group of desperados and established the Pishio mercenary group. They went around robbing houses and proclaimed themselves king in this area. Shi Yuan sent elite troops to encircle and annihilate them many times, but because of the dangerous terrain, they were unable to achieve complete victory. Qin Hang paused and smiled. About 5 miles north of us is a steep mountain range called the Devil's Palm Peaks. Every mountain peak is like a soaring devil's palm. They have different shapes and are very treacherous, making it difficult for an army to advance. The headquarters of the Pishio mercenary group is set up in the Devil's Palm Peaks. The Devil's Palm Peaks have a very rich reserve of demon core stones. For so many years, the Pishio mercenary group has been secretly mining demon core stones, crushing them into powder and selling them to the armies of the 3 empires for money. This is also the reason why this mercenary group is so powerful. Hearing this, Lin Muyu's heart was moved, but she held back and didn't say anything. On the other hand, Si Kongyao puffed out her chest proudly and smiled. What's there to be afraid of a mere Saint Martial King? Uncle Qin Hang is also a Saint Martial King. We don't have to be afraid of them at all. Let's just wait for them here. I want to see how powerful that Lu Feng who defiled the princess is. Shang Chen couldn't help but laugh. Yao, you just love to cause trouble. Since you are so aggressive, you might as well kill your way to the Devil's Palm Peaks to find Lu Feng. Oh, Sister Shang Chen reminded me. Si Kongyao said excitedly and in high spirits. Yes, we're going to go to the Devil's Palm Peaks ourselves. We're going to find this LV Feng preemptively and ask him why he sent people to beat up Lu Bai for no reason. Only in this way can we demonstrate the imposing manner and courage of our Qinji Empire's cultivators, right? And where's Lu Bai? I don't know, he just took a piece of cloth and left in a hurry, Shi Tianming said respectfully. After all, his cultivation was still low, so he said with a guilty conscience, the Devil's Palm Peaks is the headquarters of the Pishio mercenary group. If we go there, won't it be the same as courting death? Si Kongyao glanced at him and said, there is no place in the world that a brave person can't go. If young Master Shi is afraid, you can just stay here and wait for us to come back. However, I have heard from Sister Shang Chen that she hates those who drop the ball at the last minute and are as timid as a mouse. Shi Tianming clenched his fists and his battle energy revolved. Let's go, who said we won't go? Zhuang Xiaoyu smiled, waved the purple gold fan in his hand lightly and said, so are we really going? Young hero, what do you think, should we go or not? In the Forest of No Return, Lin Muyu easily killed the demon Venerable and was able to fight against the demon Emperor Nusslayer. This was already the tip of the iceberg of his strength and naturally won the respect of Zhuang Xiaoyu and the other cultivators. Moreover, Lin Muyu's skill and ease made his cultivation seem unfathomable, so Zhuang Xiaoyu had an indescribable respect for him. Lin Muyu was calculating the demon heart stone in the Devil's Palm Peaks and happily nodded. Since Miss Sikong wants to go, then let's go. Even if it's a dragon's lair or a tiger's den, we have the confidence to escape unscathed. Yes, then it's decided. Si Kongyao seemed to be very excited. She looked at the dawn in the east and said, "It's almost daybreak, let's set off now. Leave the horses here and climb the mountain on foot. Uncle Chen Hang, are your injuries all right?" Chen Hang laughed heartily and said with the rock-collapsing spear in his hand, "These minor injuries are no longer a problem. Don't worry, Miss Sikong. All right, then let's go. Let's have a taste of the legendary LV Feng's abilities." The group of people left the camp like lightning and rushed straight to the mountains in the north. 20 minutes later, they were at the foot of the Devil's Palm Peaks. When they looked up, they could see giant peaks rising into the sky. The rocks at the peak were intricate and complicated, like the fingers of a giant. No wonder it was called the Devil's Palm Peaks. There were no Pishio mercenaries guarding the foot of the mountain because there was no path. If they wanted to enter the mountain, they would have to climb the hard-to-surmount rocky mountains. Lin Muyu looked up at the terrain and finally understood why the Emperor of the Blackstone Empire didn't destroy the Pishio mercenaries. The steepest part of the mountain path was already at a 90-degree angle. Not to mention the fact that warhorses couldn't pass, even elite soldiers wouldn't be able to climb over. Moreover, as long as there were people guarding the mountain peak with bows and arrows, it could be said that one man could hold the pass against 10,000 enemies. However, the Devil's Palm Peaks couldn't do anything to Lin Muyu and the others. Gods could ride on the clouds and had long disregarded the topography of the earth. At this time, Si Kongyao's beautiful body had already risen up slowly. Holding a thin sword, she hugged Shang Chen's waist and flew up together with her. She smiled and said, "I'll bring big sister Shang Chen away, you guys do as you see fit." Lin Muyu naturally brought Lu Bai, but Zhuang Xiaoyu was arrogant and didn't even look at Shi Tianming. Shi Tianming could only ask Chen Hang for help. In any case, Shi Tianming was the son of the Minister of War Shi Ran. Chen Hang couldn't help but respect him. The group ascended, and just as they approached the mountain peak, the sound of springs suddenly rang out. So, Lin Muyu flew at the front and her eyes were like torches. She raised one hand and grabbed a section of a steel sword. It was a steel arrow that was as thick as a finger. This was a type of crossbow used by the army. "Be careful." Si Kongyao shouted a warning. The sharp sword in her hand spun rapidly, blocking all three steel arrows with a dang sound. Zhuang Xiaoyu was as light as a flying bird, and he quickly landed on the mountain peak. In front of him were a dozen mercenaries operating the crossbow, and each of them had a shocked expression. "You guys are courting death." Zhuang Xiaoyu swept his purple-gold fan, and a strong wind blew. "Wait a minute," Lin Muyu hurriedly said. But it was too late. The bodies of the dozen mercenaries, along with the crossbow, were crushed into pieces by Zhuang Xiaoyu's wind divine power. Only a bloodstain and the remains of the crossbow were left on the mountain peak, and the rest was just a bare piece of land. "Young hero, what did you say?" Zhuang Xiaoyu looked back and asked. Lin Muyu sighed. "Forget it, so be it. I originally thought that since we were here to meet LV Feng, we should be polite before resorting to force. I didn't expect young Master Zhuang to act so quickly and directly kill this group of mercenaries. With their deaths, I'm afraid that all the Pishio mercenaries in the demonic Palm Peaks will be alarmed. So be it, they're just mere mercenaries." Zhuang Xiaoyu glanced at the huge canyon surrounded by the demonic Palm Peaks and said, "The Blackstone Empire's military strength is so weak, and they can't do anything to a mercenary group like this. If it was our Qinji Empire, I'm afraid that half of the Qinji Dragon Riders would be enough to turn these so-called three big mercenary groups into ashes." Lin Muyu did not doubt Zhuang Xiaoyu's words. The Qinji Dragon Riders were indeed very strong, and they were decisive in killing. If these mercenaries had occupied the territory of the Qinji Empire, they would probably end up like Zhuang Xiaoyu said. However, Zhuang Xiaoyu directly killed people in the territory of another empire, which was a bit like bullying the weak. Ever since coming to the Celestial Pole continent, Lin Muyu had also killed people, but only the strong ones. She only needed to use the pressure of the gods to make them fear and submit to her, so there was no need to kill all of them. Perhaps, in the heart of Zhuang Xiaoyu, the son of the prime minister, there was a concept that had long been engraved into his bones: human life was like grass. Si Kongyao landed lightly on a rock at the peak of the mountain. She frowned as she looked at the blood that was swirling in the wind, but did not say much. "Let's go, we'll fly directly to their headquarters." "And let's go. Be careful, there might be other things," Qinhang said cautiously. Everyone slowly flew into the canyon. In the depths of the canyon, there were houses connected together, pavilions, terraces, and waterside pavilions. It was like a paradise. LV Feng, the king of this world, really lived like a local emperor. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.